30%. They are worse off under your presidency than they were under President Trump.
We got to take a look at what I was left when I became president, what Mr. Trump left me. We had an economy that was in free fall.
So we got
pandemic was so badly handled. Many people were dying. All he said was, it's not that serious. Just inject a little bleach into your arm. You'll be all right. The economy collapsed. There were no jobs. Unemployment rate rose to 15%. It was terrible. And so what we had to do is try to put things back together again. And that's exactly what we began to do. We created 15,000 new jobs. We brought out a position where we have 800,000 new manufacturing jobs, but there's more to be done. There's more to be done. Working class people are still in trouble. I come from Scranton, Pennsylvania. I come of a household where the kitchen table, if the things weren't able to be met during the month, it was a problem. Price of eggs, the price of gas, the price of housing, the price of a whole range of things. That's why I'm working so hard to make sure I deal with those problems. And we're going to make sure that we reduce the price of housing.
They got them juiced up.
Make sure we build
that's
2 million new units.
That's one thing.
Sure we cap rents so corporate greed can't take over. The combination that I was left with in corporate greed is the reason why we're in this problem right now. In addition to that, we're in a situation where if you take a look at all.
When was the last time this man was this coherent? They got him juiced.
By the time he left,
that's good though.
Were in chaos, literally chaos. And so we put things back together. We created, I said, those jobs. We make sure we had a situation where we brought down the price of prescription drugs, which is amazing, to $15 for a insulin, which is $400. Right. No senior has to pay more than $200 for any drug, all the drugs they can include beginning next year.
He has not spoken this clear or fast.
All Americans. So we're working
since maybe the middle of leading up to the last election.
Thank you, President Trump.
Got him on every.
We're the greatest economy in the history of our country. We have never done so well.
For sure.
Everybody was amazed by it. Other countries were copying us. We got hit with COVID. And when we did, we spent the money necessary so we wouldn't end up in a Great Depression, the likes of which we had in 1929. By the time we finished, so we did a great job. We got a lot of credit for the economy, a lot of credit for the military, and
I'm wondering.
So many other things.
You think they have like some type of voice modulator in Biden's throat? You know what I mean? And they just press a button, and it's like pre-recorded,
disaster for our country.
pre-recorded things, and then he just goes like,
"Giving them back a country where the stock
and
market
it just it plays like a pre-recorded message."
And nobody thought that was.
Biden was sharp there.
The only jobs he created are for illegal immigrants and bounce back jobs, a bounce back from the COVID. He has not done a good job. He's done a poor job, and inflation's killing our country. It is absolutely killing us.
Thank you, President Biden.
Well, look, the greatest economy in the world. He's the only one who thinks that, I think. I don't know anybody else who thinks he had the greatest economy in the world. And, the fact of the matter is that we found ourselves in a situation where his economy, he rewarded the wealthy. He had the largest tax cut in American history, $2 trillion. He raised a deficit larger than any president has in any one term. He's the only president other than Herbert Hoover who's lost more jobs than he had when he began, since Herbert Hoover. The idea that he did something that was significant. And the military, when he was president, they were still killing people in Afghanistan. He didn't do anything about that. When he was president, we were still finding ourselves in a position where you had a notion that we were this safe country. The truth is, I'm the only president this century that doesn't have this decade, that doesn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world like he did.
President Trump, I want to follow up if I can.
You want allowed to respond to him?
Well, I'm going to ask you a follow-up. You can do whatever you want with the minute that we give you. I want to follow up. You want to impose a 10% tariff on all goods coming into the U.S. How will you ensure that doesn't drive prices even higher?
It's not going to drive them higher. It's just going to cost countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China and many others, in all fairness to China. It's going to just force them to pay us a lot of money, reduce our deficit tremendously, and give us a lot of power for other things. But he made a statement. The only thing he was right about is I gave you the largest tax cut in history. I also gave you the largest rate in history. That's why we had all the jobs. And the jobs went down, and then they bounced back, and he's taking credit for bounce back jobs. You can't do that. He also said he inherited 9% inflation. No, he inherited almost no inflation, and it stayed that way for 14 months. And then it blew up under his leadership because they spent money like a bunch of people that didn't know what they were doing, and they don't know what they were doing. It was the worst, probably the worst administration in history. There's never been. And as far as Afghanistan is concerned, I was getting out of Afghanistan, but we were getting out with dignity, with strength.
Inflation was
with
very
power.
low.
He got out. It was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country's life.
President Trump.
What are we doing? Is this me or CNN? What's going on here?
New debt. Well, so far,
CNN is
Biden approved $4.3 trillion in.
All the electronics that they got Biden juiced up with. Just shut down the electric grid for a second. Pardon, ladies and gentlemen.
With the U.S. facing trillion-dollar deficits and record debt, why should top earners and corporations pay even less in taxes than they do now?
Because the tax cuts spurred the greatest economy that we've ever seen just prior to COVID. And even after COVID, it was so strong that we were able to get through COVID much better than just about any other country. But we spurred, that tax spurred. Now, when we cut the taxes, as an example, the corporate tax was cut down to 21% from 39%, plus beyond that. We took in more revenue with much less tax, and companies were bringing back trillions of dollars back into our country. The country was going like never before, and we were ready to start paying down debt. We were ready to start using the liquid gold right under our feet, the oil and gas right under our feet. We were going to have something that nobody else has had. We got hit with COVID. We did a lot to fix it. I gave him an unbelievable situation with all of the therapeutics and all of the things that we came up with. We gave him something great. Remember, more people died under his administration, even though we had largely fixed it. More people died under his administration than our administration, and we were right in the middle of it, something which a lot of people don't like to talk about. But he had far more people dying in his administration. He did the mandate, which is a disaster.
Hologram Biden.
The vaccine went out. He did
is
a mandate
legitimately
vaccine,
fucking
which is
up
the thing that people
CNN's electrical currents right now.
And he did a very poor job, just a very poor job. And I will tell you, not only poor there, but throughout the entire world, we're no longer respected as a country. They don't respect our leadership. They don't respect the United States anymore. We're like a third world nation between weapons.
And this ain't me. I just want you guys to know, this is not me doing this. All right. This is all the drugs and electronic chips that they shoved in Biden's ass before this debate to make him talk fast, fucking up CNN speed.
He's done. We've become like a third world nation, and it's a shame. The damage he's done to our country. And I'd love to ask him, and will, why he allowed millions of people to come in here from prisons, jails, and mental institutions to come into our country and destroy our country.
President Trump, we will get to immigration later in this block. President Biden, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to this question about the national debt.
Let's check Biden out.
He had the largest national
fast tonight. He's speeding.
Number one.
They got him on the cocktail.
He got $2 trillion tax cut, benefited the very wealthy.
But let's see how it holds up, right? So far, Biden has come out a lot sharper, clearer, faster than we expected. But this is an hour-and-a-half debate. Let's see if the medicine or the electronic chips that they probed him with, let's see if it holds up. But as of now, Biden's doing better than expected. But either way, we all know what's going down.
What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. I mean, billionaires in America. And what's happening? They're in a situation where they, in fact, pay 8.2% in taxes. If they just paid 24%,
it's possible.
25%, either one of those.
Very possible.
They'd raise $500 billion, I should say, in a 10-year period. We'd be able to wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we need to do, child care,
a lozenge.
Making sure
you need a lozenge, little girl.
Strengthen our healthcare system.
A lozenge,
making sure that we're able to make
sniff.
Every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID. Excuse me, with dealing with everything we have to do with.
We about 10 minutes in.
Look. We finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because all of these people are coming in. They're putting them
Yeah.
on Medicare. They're putting them
A
on
little strawberry
Social
candies,
Security. They're going to
strawberry
destroy
wrapper.
Social Security. This
Biden
man is
gives you
going to
those and a
single-handedly
sniffy a dome.
destroy Social Security. These millions and millions of people coming in, they're trying to put them on Social Security. He will wipe out Social Security. He will wipe out Medicare. So he was right in the way he finished that sentence. And it's a shame. What's happened to our country in the last 4 years is not to be believed. Foreign countries, I'm friends with a lot of people. They cannot believe what happened to the United States of America. We're no longer respected. They don't like us. We give them everything they want, and they think we're stupid. They think we're very stupid people. What we're doing for other countries, and they do nothing for us. What this man has done is absolutely criminal.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
See,
This is the first presidential election since
see, Trump is being smart, and he's been being smart recently, where he's been acting a little more like presidential, you might say, or less, less of the name calling, less of the, less of that type of action. And I think that has to do with like some of like the court cases and this and that. And he realized that his abrasiveness hurt him with a lot of people in the first election, including me. I didn't vote for him in 2016, didn't vote for him in 2020, had a fuck Trump music video in 2016, but likely I might have to vote for the man this time, because at this point, what are we gonna do? We can't vote for Biden again, even though he's having a decent showing tonight, But what Trump is doing, that's a smart strategy, is that he's not, being too aggressive, too assertive, too abusive as of yet. Let's see how it goes. Biden holding up pretty good. Couple glitches. Let's keep going.
since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. This morning, the court ruled on yet another abortion case, temporarily allowing emergency abortions to continue in Idaho, despite that state's restrictive ban. Former President Trump, you take credit for the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, which returned the issue of abortion to the states.
Correct.
However, the federal government still plays a role in whether or not women have access to abortion pills. They're used in about 2/3 of all abortions. As president, would you block abortion medication?
This is big.
First of all, the Supreme Court just approved the abortion bill, and I agree with their decision to have done that.
Good.
And I will not block it.
That's a good answer
And
there.
If you look at
But because that's actually one of the things, and mind you, for those that don't know, if you're just watching me for the first time, very middle ground politically, we'll vote either direction depending. Hated Trump, don't hate Trump as much. And the abortion issue was a big problem for the Republicans in the midterms, because they started getting a little too strict with the abortion issue. Now, Trump's a Republican, and he has a big evangelist base, a big, religious base, as the Republican Party always does. And he's not quite as harsh with the abortion thought processes. So for him to say he backs the recent Supreme Court decision, and for him to say that, of course, he wouldn't block the Plan B pill, that's very good answers for people that are, concerned with Republicans going too harsh in that direction as of recent years, with the Roe v. Wade overturning, the Supreme Court being loaded to overturn it, etc.
this whole question that you're asking, complex, but not really complex. 51 years ago, you had Roe v. Wade.
Baker's dozen.
Everybody wanted to get it back to the states. Everybody, without exception. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives. Everybody wanted it back. Religious leaders. And what I did is I put 3 great Supreme Court justices on the court, and they happened to vote in favor of killing Roe v. Wade and moving it back to the states. This is something that everybody wanted. Now, 10 years ago or so, they started talking about how many weeks and how many this, and getting into other things. But every legal scholar throughout the world, the most respected, wanted it brought back to the states. I did that. Now the states are working it out. If you look at Ohio, it was a decision that was an end result that was a little bit more liberal than you would have thought. Kansas, I would say the same thing. Texas is different. Florida is different.
Biden got that.
They're all making
Yeah,
their
I was
own
about to
decisions
say, he's got.
now. And right now, the states control it. That's the vote of the people. Like Ronald Reagan, I believe
he's
in
on
the exceptions. I am a person that believes. And frankly, I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in that. But I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother.
But I
think it's very important. Some people don't. Follow your heart. But you have to get elected also, and because that has to do with other
It's true.
things. You got to get elected. The problem they have is they're radical because they will take the life of a child in the 8th month, the 9th month, and even after birth. After birth, if you look at
That is an
former
important
governor
thing to
of Virginia,
point out with
he was
Trump,
willing to do this.
is that he
said, "We'll
wasn't
put the baby
overtly
aside,
religious
and
until
we'll
he ran
determine
for
what we do
president,
with the baby.
and
Meaning
he
we'll kill the
did
baby."
kind of utilize the
happened is we brought
evangelical
it back
base,
to the
and Mike
States,
Pence
and
was
the
a big
country is now
driver of that
coming
base because he's
together
a
on
super
this issue. It's
evangelical
been a
guy.
great
So
thing.
he grifted the
Thank you.
religion angle a little
President
bit for
It's been
sure.
a terrible thing, what you've done. The fact is that the vast majority of constitutional scholars supported Roe when it was decided, supported Roe. And that's this idea that they're all against it is just ridiculous. And this is the guy who says the state should be able to have it. We're in a state where in 6 weeks, you don't even know whether you're pregnant or not, but you cannot see a doctor, and have him decide on what your circumstances are, whether you need help. The idea that states are able to do this is a little like saying we're going to turn civil rights back to the states. Let each state have a different rule.
That's not true.
Look, there's so many young women who have been,
That's a little bit of a reach.
including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral. The idea that she was murdered by an immigrant coming in, they talk about that. But here's the deal: there's a lot of young women who are being raped by their.
When
by
you
their
start
in-laws,
hearing,
by
here's
their-
the deal,
by their
that means
spouses,
he's getting
brothers
close
and
to glitching
sisters.
again.
It's just ridiculous, and they can do nothing about it. And they try to arrest them when they cross state lines.
Thank you.
There have been many young women murdered by the same people he allows to come across our border. We have a border that's the most dangerous place anywhere in the world, considered the most dangerous place anywhere in the world. And he opened it up, and these killers are coming into our country, and they are raping and killing women. And it's a terrible thing. As far as the abortion is concerned, it is now back with the
The
states.
border
The states are voting.
is one of the main
In many
issues that's going
cases,
to lose
it's,
Biden.
frankly, a
I
very
mean,
liberal
his
decision.
age
In many cases, it's the opposite.
Incompetency
But
should
they're voting,
make him
and it's
lose.
bringing it back
But
to
the
the vote
border,
of the people, which is what everybody wanted, including the founders, if they knew about this issue, which frankly they didn't. But they would have. Everybody wanted brought back. Ronald Reagan wanted it brought back. He wasn't able to get it. Everybody wanted it brought.
see, when they first did the Roe v. Wade rollback, I definitely was fairly against it. I have daughters. I believe in personal autonomy. I probably lean more libertarian at this point in my life than anything, very middle ground, very liberty based, very personal freedom based. And when they first overturned Roe v. Wade, I was concerned with it. And I was concerned that it might keep going the other direction. But the thing to keep in mind, exactly, we the purple, exactly, my brother. The thing to keep in mind, though, is that is supposed to be the point of America, right? Not when it comes to owning slaves and states' rights and all you retards in Pennsylvania that have fucking Confederate flags, bro. That's the wrong side, right? Now when it comes to owning humans, but when it comes to personal autonomy, states' rights are supposed to provide that. So in the long run, I don't think I'm too far against the Roe v. Wade overturning to a degree, but I just hope it's not a slippery slope that goes the wrong direction. But as of now, even Trump's Supreme Court appointees have done the right thing in cases that seems like it should lean that direction. So Trump is giving good answers when it comes to this issue, because this is a very, very divisive issue. Me personally, I voted either independent or for the Democrats locally in the midterms because of how some of the Republicans were talking with the abortion thing, and they were getting a little too government should never have control over a person's body, regardless. Like it, not like it, that's up to you, but let's go.
Brought back, and many presidents had tried to get it back. I was the one to do it. And again, this gives it the vote of the people, and that's where they wanted it. Every legal
Fuck both of these
wanted
dudes,
it that way.
regardless who you vote for.
Staying on the topic of abortion, President Biden,
That's what it's about.
7 states, I'll let you do that. This is the same topic. 7 states have no legal restrictions on how far into a pregnancy a woman can obtain an abortion. Do you support any legal limits on how late a woman should be able to terminate a pregnancy?
I supported Roe v. Wade, which had 3 trimesters. The first time is between the woman and the doctor. Second
He's
time
getting
is
there.
between the doctor and an extreme situation. The third time is between the doctor. Between the woman and the state. The
Joey.
idea that the politicians,
The drug's wearing off.
The founders wanted the politicians to be the ones making decisions about women's health is ridiculous. That's the last.
That's where I agree.
Making that decision.
That's where I
the
agree.
doctor should be making those decisions.
I agree.
That's how it should be run. That's what you're going to do.
Doctor
And
and
if I'm
patient.
elected, I'm going to restore
I do
Roe
agree.
v. Wade.
So that means he can take the life of the baby in the 9th month and even after birth, because some states, Democrat run, take it after birth. Again, the former governor of Virginia, put the baby down, then we decide what
Yeah.
to do with it. So he's willing to, as we say, rip
That's a hell of an exaggeration from Trump, but a good tactic.
the baby out of the womb in the 9th month and kill the baby. Nobody wants that to happen, Democrat or Republican. Nobody wants it to happen.
Nobody's doing that really, though.
That is simply not true.
It is not true.
The Roe v. Wade does not provide for that. That's not the circumstance. Only if a woman's life is in danger, she's going to die. That's the only circumstance in which that can happen. But we are not for late-term abortion, period. Period, period.
Under Roe v. Wade, you have late-term abortion. You can do whatever you want, depending on the state. You can do whatever you want. We don't think that's a good thing. We think it's a radical thing. We think the Democrats are the radicals, not the Republicans.
For 51 years, that was the law. 51 years, constitutional scholarship said it was the right way to go. 51 years, and it was taken away because this guy put very conservative members on the Supreme Court. He takes credit for taking it away. What's he going to do? What's he going to do, in fact, if the MAGA Republicans, he gets elected, and the MAGA Republicans control the Congress, and they pass a universal ban on abortion, period, across the board at 6 weeks or 7 or 8 or 10 weeks, something very, very conservative. Is he going to sign that bill? I'll veto it. He'll sign it.
Will he
you.
sign it? Let me hear him
On
respond.
The issue of immigration and
Oh,
border
you should let him
security,
respond. See, they should let him respond to that, because I am interested to know what Trump would do if he got a bill like that from the extreme members of his party. Because there are extreme members of the Democrat Party that would kill a baby super late into the pregnancy. Usually it's only in emergency circumstances, but then there's the real fringe Democrats that might let it be truly late term. Just like there is the fringe Republicans that think the minute you bust a nut into a woman, it's a baby, you know? So I really would like to see damn, I wish they would have let him respond there, man. They should have let him respond there.
President Biden, a record number of migrants have illegally crossed the southern border on your watch. Overwhelming
I've been slacking, Dario.
And
I got to get back
overburdening
to it,
cities
Dario.
such as New
I
York and
appreciate you
Chicago,
very
and
much
in
for
some
being here.
cases causing real safety and security concerns. Given that, why should voters trust you to solve this crisis?
Because we
Let's see
worked
what we
very
got.
hard to get a bipartisan agreement that not only changed all of that, it made sure that we are in a situation where you had no circumstance where they could come across the border with the number of border police there are now. We significantly increased the number of asylum officers. Significantly, by the way, the Border Patrol endorsed my position. In addition to that, we found ourselves in a situation where when he was president, he was separating babies from their mothers, putting them in cages, making sure the families were separated. That's not the right way to go. What I've done since I've changed the law, what's happened? I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border illegally. That's better than when he left office.
And that is fairly accurate for very recent statistics. But he just recently changed that law. That law was just recently put forward. You know, so we can't ignore the last 2.5 years or whatever it is that they've been flooding it. Now, the new law they just put in, there is a 40% reduction, I believe, or something along those lines. But let's not ignore what's been happening prior. Let's go.
And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total.
See, I don't think a lot of people think that, Phantom. But the problem is that when you have a border that is as open as Biden has allowed it to be, yes, there are good people that are going to come through and families, and you know that's true. But there's also pieces of shit. There's also cartel members and people like that are getting the people to the border, and they're getting raped and everything else on the way up. There's also then people flooding in through the border from other countries. You have Chinese people, Chinese nationals coming in, you know, left and right, tens of thousands, which has never happened before. You know, you have people slipping through the cracks. You have terrorists slipping through the cracks. They got, you know, like Middle East terrorists, like from terror cells and such, proven slipping through the cracks more. So yeah, I agree. I don't want nobody to feel that way, but unfortunately, you know, stereotypes and certain things, I mean, they have a grain of truth to them often, and we have to be careful for that reason, obviously.
Total initiative relative to what we can do with more border patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look, we had the safest
The
border
first
in the
jab.
history of our country. The border, all he had to do was leave it. All he had to do was leave it. He decided to open up our border, open up our country to people that
Yeah.
are from prisons, people that are from mental institutions, insane asylum, terrorists. We have the largest number of terrorists coming into our country right now, all terrorists, all over the world, not just in South America, all over the world. They come from the Middle East, everywhere, all over the world, they're pouring in. And this guy just left it open. And he didn't need legislation because I didn't have legislation. I said, close the border. We had the safest border in history. In that final couple of months of my presidency, we had, according to Border Patrol, who is great, and by the way, who endorsed me for president, but I won't say that, but they endorsed me for president. Brandon, just speak to him. But look, we had the safest border in history. Now we have the worst border in history. There's never been anything like it. And people are dying all over the place, including
Hello.
the people that are coming up in
Thank you,
Love,
President
love.
Trump. President Biden?
The only terrorist who's done anything crossing the border is one who came along and killed three, and his administration killed an Al-Qaeda person come in and his administration. Kill
We're getting there. We're getting there,
American
guys.
soldiers. Kill 3 American soldiers. That's the only terrorist that's there. I'm not saying that no terrorist ever got through, but the idea they're emptying their prisons, we're welcoming these people. That's simply not true. There's no data to support what he said. Once again, he's exaggerating. He's lying.
Of course, some of it is exaggeration. Some of it's adding on from the Trump side, right? And that's true, right? It's not, you know, like fucking Al Qaeda's running in with fucking suicide bombs on their goddamn chest, right? But on the same token, it is true that the border is leaking like a sieve and immigrants are leaking in from more countries than just South America. And there is a lot more risk due to that than there ever has been. And this is statistically provable. Now, on the East Coast, you're not going to see it so much, right? I don't really notice it, right? In New York, certain cities, I'm in PA now, but my people from New York, when I used to live in New York, they tell me it is this semi-noticeable there. But in the West Coast, man, those border cities, Jesus, it's crazy right now.
President Trump, staying on the topic of immigration, you've said that you're going to carry out, quote, the largest domestic deportation operation in American history, unquote. Does that mean that you will deport every undocumented immigrant in America, including those who have jobs, including those whose spouses are citizens, and including those who have lived here for decades?
This is an
And if
important
so,
answer.
How will you do it?
Just 1 second. He said we killed 3 people. The people we killed are al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, the 2 greatest terrorists, biggest terrorists anywhere in the world. And it had a huge impact on everything, not just border, on everything. He's the one that killed people with the bad water, including hundreds of thousands of people dying and also killing our citizens when they come in. We are living right now in a rat's nest. They're killing our people in New York, in California, in every state in the union, because we don't have borders anymore. Every state is now a border. And because of his ridiculous, insane, and very stupid policies, people are coming in and they're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen. We call it migrant crime. I call it Biden migrant crime. They're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen before. And you're reading it like these 3 incredible young girls over the last few days. One of them, I just spoke to the mother, and he just had the funeral for this girl, 12 years old. This is horrible what's taken place. What's taken place in our country, we're literally an uncivilized country now. He doesn't want it to be. He just doesn't know. He opened the borders. Nobody's ever seen anything like. And we have to get a lot of these people out, and we have to get them out fast because they're going to destroy our country. Just take a look at where they're living. They're living in luxury hotels in New York City and other places. Our veterans are on the street. They're dying because he doesn't care about our veterans. He doesn't care. He doesn't like the military at all. And he doesn't care about our veterans. Nobody been worse. I had the highest approval rating for veterans taking care of the VA. He has the worst. He's gotten rid of all the things that I approved. Choice that I got through Congress, all of the different things I approved, they abandoned. We had by far the highest, and now it's down in less than half because he's done all these great things that we did. And I think he did it just because I approved it, which is crazy. But he has killed so many people at our border by allowing all of these people to come in.
The hologram thing, I believe it a little. Obviously, I don't really fully believe that anyway, but I believe it even less now because you can see him starting to fade. Like the first two answers he gave, Biden was fast, he was sharp, he was spitting out sentences, but you could see it degrading over time. So whatever they're able to hit him with, I wonder if they're gonna take an intermission, right? You know how they take like an intermission during the movies or a play or some shit. They might put the curtains up, bring him backstage, choo, 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 do him like a NASCAR crew, and then fucking push his ass back out there. That might happen.
It's a very sad day in America.
President Biden, you have the mic.
Every single thing he said is a lie. Every single one. For example, veterans are a hell of a lot better off since I passed the PACT Act. 1 million of them now have insurance and their families have it. Their families have it because what happened, whether it was Agent Orange or burn pits, they're all being covered now. And his group opposed that. We're also in a situation where we have great respect for veterans. My son spent a year in Iraq, living right next to one of those burn pits, came back with stage 4 glioblastoma. I was recently in France for D-Day, and I spoke all about those heroes that died. I went to the World War I cemetery he refused to go to. He was standing with his 4-star general, and he told me, he said, I don't want to go in there because they're a bunch of losers and suckers. My son was not a loser, was not a sucker. You're the sucker. You're the loser.
President Trump.
First of all, that was a made-up quote, suckers and losers. They made it up. It was in a third-rate magazine that's failing, like many of these magazines. He made that up. He put it in commercials. We've notified him. We had 19 people that said I didn't say it. And think of this. Who would say I'm at a cemetery or I'm talking about our veterans? Because nobody's taken better care. I'm so glad this came up and he brought it up. There's nobody that's taken better care of our soldiers than I have. To think that I would, in front of generals and others, say suckers and losers. We have 19 people that said it was never said by me. It was made up by him, just like Russia was made.
And that is part of the thing, right? And you realize as you go on, like I said, I came into Trump running in 2016 from the thought process of a New Yorker, knowing how much he's fucked people from a business standpoint, you know, hearing some of the things he said over the years. And that made me really be like, fuck this dude. He's a piece of shit. He's this, he's that. But one thing that is undeniable over the last, you know, what is it, 8 years we're up to at this point with Trump, right? 16, 15, 9 years even maybe. Did he announce in 15? A lot of things are said that are clearly not true. And then more people say it, and they become true. You know, lies become facts over time. That's why this meme culture and, you know, comment section culture is so dangerous in society. But basically, Biden just reacted to a comment, suckers and losers, talk about people in the military, whatever it is, that Trump never even made, apparently. And that does happen often.
Made up, just like the 51 intelligence agents are made up. Just like the new thing with the 16 economists are talking, it's the same thing. 51 intelligence agents said that the laptop was Russia disinformation. It wasn't. That came from his son, Hunter. It wasn't Russia disinformation. He made up the suckers and losers, so he should apologize to me right now.
4-star.
That's actually what made me vote libertarian in the last election. Because number one, I started noticing Biden's mental decline. That was number one, which got me close. You know, which way am I going to vote? I'll never vote for Trump. I said then, not saying that so much now. But when they repressed the laptop situation and I seen the collusion with the media and all parties involved in not letting that story come to light, I said, no. Because that's anti-freedom of the press. That's anti-freedom. And that's one of my main stances. You know, you should be free to do whatever you want. Body autonomy, all other autonomies, as long as you're not hurting anyone else, as long as you're not underage, et cetera, et cetera. You know, so let's keep going.
Our general standing to your side who was on your staff said you said it, period. That's number one. And number two, the idea that I have to apologize to you for anything along the line. We've done more for veterans than any president has in American history. And they now are in their family. The only
not underage. They don't advocate for that usually.
To care for our veterans when they come home and their families and equip them when they go to war. That's what we're doing. That's what the VA is doing now. They're doing more for veterans than ever before in our history.
All right. Thank you so much.
Let's move to the topic of foreign policy. I want to begin with Russia's war against Ukraine, which is now in its third year.
This is interesting. Russia versus Ukraine. Let's see what we got here.
Former President Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin says he'll only end this war if Russia keeps the Ukrainian territory it has already claimed and Ukraine
How about a burp?
abandons its bid to join NATO. Are Putin's terms acceptable
good.
to you?
First of all, our Russians and our soldiers can't stand this guy. They can't stand him. They think he's the worst commander in chief, if that's what you call him, that we've ever had. They can't stand him. So let's get that straight. And they like me more than just about any of them. And that's based on every single bit of information. As far as Russia and Ukraine, if we had a real president, the president that knew, that was respected by Putin, he would have never invaded Ukraine. A lot of people are dead right now, much more than people know. You know, they talk about numbers. You can double those numbers, maybe triple those numbers. He did nothing to stop it. In fact, I think he encouraged Russia from going in. I'll tell you what happened. He was so bad with Afghanistan. It was such a horrible embarrassment, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, that when Putin watched that and he saw the incompetence, that he should have fired those generals, like I fired the one that you mentioned. And so he's got no love lost, but he should have fired those generals. No general got fired for the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, Afghanistan, where we left billions of dollars of equipment behind. We lost 13 beautiful soldiers, and 38 soldiers were obliterated. And by the way, we left people behind too. We left American citizens behind. When Putin saw that, he said, you know what? I think we're going to go in and maybe take this was his dream. I talked to him about it, his dream. The difference is he never would have invaded Ukraine, never. Just like Israel would have never been invaded in a million years by Hamas. You know why? Because Iran was broke with me. I wouldn't let anybody do business with them. They ran out of money. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for anything, no money for terror. That's why you had no terror at all during my administration. This place, the whole world is blowing up under him.
President Biden?
I personally agree with Trump, but I think it's for different reasons. I think the reason that Ukraine-Russia wouldn't have happened was because he does have a relationship with Putin, not the relationship that the media tries to put out, collusion and all that shit, which they couldn't prove over a long period of time. You know, so I think he would have been able to negotiate with Putin. I also believe that Trump would have told NATO, chill the fuck out, stop moving closer to Russia. This is the only thing he doesn't want, you know. Let's stop doing that. Let's stop trying to get closer and closer to Russian soil and surrounding Russia with NATO, right? Imagine if Mexico and Canada were being taken over by Russia. That's the equivalent of the United States and NATO being connected to Ukraine. You know, remind you that the reason NATO was originally created was the fear of the Soviet Union, the USSR, right? That disbanded a long time ago. Anyway, I believe their relationship would have led them to not allow Russia-Ukraine to happen. Now, for the Hamas situation, funding plays a role in it. They get funding regardless from somewhere, but obviously that U.S. money, I agree. But I believe that's where the fear factor comes in a little bit more, because I think Hamas knows, you know, Trump does have pretty decent connections to Israel, and I think Hamas maybe they wouldn't have took that risk on October 7th, was it? Yeah, let's see what Biden says.
I've never heard so much malarkey in my whole life. Look, the fact
Malarkey.
of the matter is that we're in a situation where, let's take the last point first. Iran attacked American troops, caused brain damage for a number of these troops, and he did nothing about it. Recently, not when he was president. They attacked. He said they're just having headaches. That's all it is. He didn't do a
Crying,
thing
boy.
when the attack took place, number one. Number two, we got over 100,000 Americans and others out of Afghanistan during that airlift. Number three, we found ourselves in a situation where, if you take a look at what Trump did in Ukraine, this guy told Trump, do whatever you want, and do whatever you want. And that's exactly what Trump did to Putin, encourage him, do whatever you want. And he went in. And listen to what he said when he went in. He was going to take Kyiv in 5 days, remember? Because it's part of the old Soviet Union. That's what he wanted to reestablish, Kyiv. And he, in fact, didn't do it at all. He wasn't able to get it done. And they've lost thousands and thousands of troops, 500,000 troops.
President Trump,
I
if I
never
come back
said
to you
that.
for 1 minute, I just want to go back to my original question, which is, are Putin's terms acceptable to you? Keeping the
No, they're
territory
not
in Ukraine.
acceptable. No, they're not acceptable. But look, this is a war that never should have started. If we had a leader in this war, he led everybody along. He's given $200 billion now or more to Ukraine. He's given
Crazy.
$200 billion. That's a lot of money. I don't
Crazy.
think there's ever been anything like it.
Yeah.
Every time that Zelensky comes to this country, he walks away with $60 billion. He's the greatest salesman ever. And I'm not knocking him. I'm not knocking anything. I'm only saying
There's a video online, you should look it up, where Biden is actually sitting with Zelensky and he apologizes to him. He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry I didn't get you that money. You know, like it won't happen again." Like, oh, that's our position in the world now. Yeah, it's wild right now.
the money that we're spending on this war, and we shouldn't be spending, it should have never happened. I will have that war settled between Putin and Zelensky as president-elect before I take office on January 20th. I'll have that war settled. People being killed so needlessly, so stupidly, and I will get it settled, and I'll get it settled fast before I take office.
And I believe Trump. See, and this is one of the only things, even when I was not even fairly, extremely anti-Trump, one of the main things I liked about him is he's anti-foreign war, right? And I actually believe that that is possible because I believe, number one, he's coherent, right? He's coherent enough to do it. He's still establishment, even though people don't want to admit it, but he's anti-establishment enough to do it, you know, and he doesn't want the foreign wars. He doesn't want our money being spent, billions of dollars, hand over fist. So I believe he might actually be able to negotiate a stop to these situations. I think it's possible. It's more possible with him than Biden. Because number one, Biden is owned by fucking the military industrial complex to a crazy degree. The connections are not even hard to make. It's obvious, a lot of money and, you know, whatever. Right. And secondly, Biden's not even alive barely. So he can't, what's Biden going to do? He's going to sit down and break bread. Who's he breaking bread with? He can't even eat bread. You know what I mean? He can't eat toast. If Biden eats toast, he'll die. His bread needs to be put in fucking water. And then you, come on now, let's keep going.
President Biden, you have a minute.
The fact is that Putin is a war criminal. He's killed thousands and thousands of people. And he has made
Every president that served during war times, which is most presidents, are war criminals, including Putin. But let's also point the finger where it should be pointed as well.
one thing clear. He wants to reestablish what was part of the Soviet Empire, not just a piece. He wants all of Ukraine. That's what he wants. And then you think he'll stop there? Do you think he'll stop when if he takes Ukraine? What do you think happens to Poland? What do you think of Belarus? What do you think happens to those NATO countries? And so if you want a war, you ought to find out what he's going to do, because if in fact he does what he says and walks away, by the way, all that money we give Ukraine are from weapons we make here in the United States. We give them the weapons, not the money at this point. And our NATO allies have produced as much funding for Ukraine as we have. That's why we're strong.
Thank you. Moving on to the Middle.
By the way, if RFK is on the ballot in November, I'm voting for RFK. I know he can't win, but if he could be the first independent or the first non-establishment candidate to get 7, 8, 9, 10%, right? Because back in the day, Ross Perot, I believe he got 6%, and they actually changed the rules, right? That's why RFK has to jump through these hoops right now, because they changed the rules, right? Republicans and Democrats got together. They say, hold on, this fucking billionaire is buying fucking TV spots during prime time, right? And getting 6, 7% of the vote. Hold on. So now RFK is in a fight to try to get on the ballot in all 50 states. If he is, I'm most likely voting for him. I know he can't win. I know I can't vote for Biden. I never thought I would think about voting for Trump, but might be on the agenda this time. I ain't gonna lie. And as a person, we should all be able to evolve and change our decisions if new information or new circumstances present themselves.
Middle East. In October, Hamas attacked Israel, killing more than 1,000 people and taking hundreds of hostages. Among those held and thought to still be alive are 5 Americans. Israel's response has killed thousands of Palestinians and created a humanitarian crisis in Gaza. President Biden, you've put forward a proposal to resolve this conflict, but so far Hamas has not released the remaining hostages, and Israel is continuing its military offensive in Gaza. So what additional...
In Gaza and beyond, they were attacking camps in Egypt as well at this point. And you know who's paying for that shit? You motherfuckers, Republicans, Democrats, libertarians, crackheads that pay a little tax. You know, some crackheads don't pay tax, but the crackheads that pay tax, you're paying for Ukraine and Israel. Never forget. That's the real never forget. You know what I mean?
Leverage will you use to get Hamas and Israel to end the war? You have 2 minutes.
Number one, everyone from the United Nations Security Council straight through to the G7 to the Israelis and Netanyahu himself have endorsed the plan I put forward, which has 3 stages to it. The first stage is trade the hostages for a ceasefire. Second phase is a ceasefire with additional conditions. The third phase is the end of the war. The only one who wants the war to continue is Hamas. Number one, they're the only ones standing out. We're still pushing hard to get them to accept it.
That is some ballsy shit to say, right? And fuck Hamas, fuck terrorism, not fuck the Palestinian people. But that's ballsy to say Hamas is the only ones that want the war to continue. You know, Israel's over there chopping down Palestinians and loving every minute of it. Maybe not as much as Hamas would love it, right? Truly, like even more overtly evil people, quote unquote, right? By standards we might look at, right? But don't act like Israel's like, oh, we want this to stop. We can't wait for this to stop. We hate this. No. They smirking, sniping out Palestinians. Cut the shit. And not just Hamas, Palestinians as well.
In the meantime, what's happened in Israel? We're finding that the only thing I've denied Israel was 2,000-pound bombs. They don't work very well in populated areas. They kill a lot of innocent people. We're providing Israel with all the weapons they need and when they need them. And by the way, I'm the guy that organized
How's that good?
the world against Iran when they had a full-blown intercontinental ballistic missile attack on Israel. No one was hurt. No one Israeli was accidentally killed, and it just stopped. We saved Israel. We are the biggest producer of support for Israel of anyone in the world. And so there are 2 different things. Hamas cannot be allowed to be continued. We continue to send our experts and our intelligence people as to how they can get Hamas like we did bin Laden. You don't have to do it. And by the way, they've been greatly weakened, Hamas, greatly weakened, and they should be. They should be eliminated. But you've got to be careful for using certain weapons among population centers.
Yeah.
Just going back to Ukraine for once.
The thing, though, that I'm just going to take from that I don't want to hear, we've given Israel everything they've asked for except this particular bomb that he mentioned. That statement should never be made for anything regarding a foreign entity. We gave blank everything they've asked for except doesn't make it better. We gave blank everything they asked for. The only thing you should be given everything they asked for is the American people, and which no president has never even gave 20% of what we fucking asked for. So, you know, that's the highlight of that for me.
Second, we have an ocean separating us. The European nations together have spent 100 billion or maybe more than that, less than us. Why doesn't he call them and say, you got to put up your money like I did with NATO? I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. The Secretary General of NATO said Trump did the most incredible job I've ever seen. They wouldn't have any, they were going out of business. We were spending almost 100% of the money was paid by us. He didn't do that. He's getting you got to ask these people to put up the money. We're over $100 billion more spent, and it has a bigger impact on them because of location, because we have an ocean in between. You got to ask them. As far as Israel and Hamas, Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one who wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't.
See, I just said those words, but not the words that he said. That let them go, let them finish the job. See, and this is the problem with either one of these goddamn fucking, candidates, is the fact that they are both Israel simps like the United States have always been, and it's dangerous, man. It's dangerous because you're creating more terrorists, unfortunately. But anyway, I'm on delay. Kenny, is that what we saying? Let me see. I'm gonna put this back.
Doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian.
Oh, you mean I'm not live with the debate? Yes. Let me know if that's what Kenny's talking about, guys. Are my words not matching my video, or does he mean I'm on delay as far as I'm behind in the debate, which is purposeful because I'm not just going to only watch it. I'm going to watch it and give my thoughts on it. So let me know which one that is.
But they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
President Biden, you have a minute.
I've never heard so much foolishness. This is a guy who wants to get out of NATO. You're going to stay in NATO? He's going to pull out of NATO. The idea that we have our strength lies in our alliances as well. It may be a big ocean, but we're ever able to avoid a war in Europe, a major war in Europe? What happens if, in fact, you have Putin continue to go into NATO? We have an Article 5 agreement. Attack on one is attack on all. You want to start the nuclear war he keeps talking about, go ahead. Let Putin go in and control Ukraine and then move on to Poland and other places. See what happens then. He has no idea what the hell he's talking about. And by the way, I got 50 other nations around the world to support Ukraine, including Japan.
They're getting Biden tuned up right now, Kenny. They hitting Biden with everything. They got, you know how there's a NASCAR crew? They got like 4 crews. You know what I mean? Hitting them with needles and microchips and AI technology. Got fucking Elon Musk putting a fucking Neuralink in his dome.
In South Korea, because they understand that this kind of dislocation has a serious threat to the whole world peace. No major war in Europe has ever been able to be contained just to Europe.
President Trump, just to follow up, would you support the creation of an independent Palestinian state in order to achieve peace in the region?
I'd have to see. But before we do that, the problem we have is that we spend all the money. So they kill us on trade. I made great trade deals with the European nations because if you add them up, they're about the same size economically. Their economy is about the same size as the United States. And they were no cars, they don't want anything that we have, but we're supposed to take their cars, their food, their everything, their agriculture. I changed that.
And that's one place where Trump is good, is the America First mentality is the right mentality. I mean, we are Americans at the end of the day, right? We don't want egregious things to happen on the planet, right? As a superpower, if we could prevent them, but we cause more egregious things happening on our planet than we prevent most of the time. So the America First mentality is a good mentality, and it's not something that we should look at like a negative. It's almost like a pejorative to some people, which doesn't make much sense. And once again, I'm not a Trump guy, but we deal with reality.
But the big thing I changed is they don't want to pay. And the only reason that he can play games with NATO is because I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. I said, and he's right about this, I said, no, I'm not going to support NATO if you don't pay. They asked me that question. Would you guard us against Russia? At a very secret meeting of the 28 states at that time, nations at that time. And they said, no, if you don't pay, I won't do that. And you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in the next day and the next months. But now we're in the same position. We're paying everybody's bills.
Let's turn to the issue of democracy.
Yeah, and that's not ideal. And he's right about that. Leaving NATO is also probably not the best thing to do at this point, even though what I referenced earlier, NATO was originally created by the rest of the world to counteract the Soviet Union, and attack one, fight us all, and all that bullshit. And it's good to have NATO to a degree. What's not good is that NATO has become, like almost like a world domination, Civilization 6, as my man Uncle Dust plays, a world domination situation. And now Russia was chilling for quite a long time, and we just keep getting closer and closer and closer to Russia's border. And that's the risk of what NATO has become as well, right? Because when you have power or you have money and you combine all that power and money, what happens? You get power hungry, you get blind to what you're doing, or you're doing it on purpose. But either way, the results are not always ideal. So leave NATO, sketchy. Check NATO, necessary, but not happening.
Former President Trump, I want to ask you about January 6, 2021. After you rallied your supporters that day, some of them stormed the Capitol to stop the constitutionally mandated counting of electoral votes. As president, you swore an oath to, quote, preserve, protect, and defend, unquote, the Constitution. What do you say to voters who believe that you violated that oath through your actions and inaction on January 6th and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I don't think too many believe that. And let me tell you about January 6th. On January 6th, we had a great border. Nobody coming through, very few. On January 6th, we were energy independent. On January 6th, we had the lowest taxes ever. We had the lowest regulations ever. On January 6th, we were respected all over the world. All over the world, we were respected. And then he comes in, and we're now laughed at. We're like a bunch of stupid people. That what happened to the United States' reputation under this man's leadership is horrible, including weaponization, which I'm sure at some point you'll be talking about, where he goes after his political opponent because he can't beat him fair and square.
You have 80 seconds left. My question was, what do you say to those voters who believe that you violated your constitutional oath through your actions and inaction on January 6, 2021, and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I didn't say that to anybody. I said peacefully and patriotically. And Nancy Pelosi, if you just watched the news from 2 days ago, on tape to her daughter, who's a documentary filmmaker, they say, but she's saying, oh, no, it's my responsibility. I was responsible for this because I offered her 10,000 soldiers or National Guard, and she turned them down. And the mayor of, in writing, by the way, the mayor in writing turned it down, the mayor of D.C. They turned it down. I offered 10,000 because I could see I had virtually nothing to do. They asked me to go make a speech. I could see what was happening. Everybody.
And that is accurate. There is a video out there, if you look it up, of Nancy Pelosi admitting that they dropped the ball as far as protecting the Capitol. Trump is saying he offered it. I believe it. You know, I do. You know, it's undeniable that to a degree he got them hyped up to do some shit. But listen, you know, what if when Hillary and the Democrats denied Trump winning with the Russia collusion thing and this, that, what if their followers just happen to be a little more, let's go? You know, that's what happens when you have like an impassioned, a passionate fan base. So you can't blame Trump for January 6th, even though I do think that undeniably his words at the podium played a role in what occurred. But at the same time, violating, you know, people who worry like there's this thing, like if Trump gets in, he's never going to leave. You know, like he's just going to rally all the crazy MAGA people and going to take over the country. Listen, he was president for 4 years. Not that much wild shit along those lines happened. So I thought some of it might happen prior to him winning, right? But we have 4 years of data to show he didn't do anything too crazy. So, you know.
But he was saying they're going to be there on January 6th. They're going to be there. And I said, you know what? There's a lot of people coming. You could feel it.
100%, Joe.
Too, and you could feel it. And I said, they ought to have some National Guard or whatever. And I offered it to her. And she now admits that she turned it down. And it was the same day she was, I don't know, she can't be very happy with her daughter because it made her into a liar. She said, I take full responsibility for January 6th.
President Biden?
She did. There's a video out there.
He encouraged those folks to go up on Capitol Hill, number one. I sat in the dining room off the Oval Office. He sat there for 3 hours watching, begging, being begged by his vice president and a number of his colleagues on the Republican side as well to do something, to call for a stop, to end it. Instead, they talked about these people being patriots and great patrons of America. In fact,
Biden's losing it,
now forgive
flailing a little.
You know, they've been convicted. He says he wants to commute their sentences and say that no. He went to every single court in the nation. I don't know how many cases, scores of cases, including the Supreme Court.
All right, let's skip the Jan 6 shit. I think we're all January 6th out, right? It is what it is, right? They over prosecuted people. It was ridiculous, right? Also, I don't think they blatantly stole the election like Trump wants to claim. I believe they manipulated it with the media helping them to a degree, right? But let's skip a little bit through this.
Them all out.
See what we got next.
Are determined to destroy America.
What do we got here?
Any campaign, I don't think any campaign has ever taken hundreds of millions of a DOJ.
See what we got. See what the next thing was.
Number 3, for doing you have
A high-ranking official, a DOJ, into the Manhattan DA's office to start that case. That case is going to be appealed and won.
Right.
We had a very terrible judge, a horrible judge, Democrat. The prosecutor were all high-ranking Democrats
All
appointed.
right, so now they're talking about all the cases that were brought against Trump, which honestly, listen, the most blind Trump haters will never acknowledge anything, just like the most blind Trump lovers will never acknowledge anything. But there's no debating about the fact that these are politically motivated prosecutions and cases. Most of these things happened 10, 15 years ago. Why didn't you do it? Why didn't you do it? Was he guilty of some things? Maybe, but they packaged all that shit to make it into a felony when it wasn't really a felony to start with. It's what all legal experts say, not what my dumbass is saying.
People, and both the civil and the criminal. He basically went after his political opponent because he thought it was going to damage me. But when the public found out about these cases, because they understand it better than he does, he has no idea what these cases are. But when they found out about these cases, you know what they did? My poll numbers went up, way up. You know that because you're reporting it. And we took in more
it worked
money
against
in the
them.
last 2 weeks.
That's a fact. It absolutely worked against them. All right, so fuck this shit too. I'm not super interested in this.
Campaign, I don't think any campaign. Both of you know that, sir, has been totally
good people coming out of that forest, carrying
where it was ridiculous. We have a debate. We're trying to justify his presidency. His presidency, he's without question the worst president, the worst presidency in the history of our country. We shouldn't be having a debate about it. There's nothing to debate. He made up the Charlottesville story, and you'll see it's debunked all over the place. Every reasonable anchor has debunked it. And just the other day, it came out where it was fully debunked.
And this is fairly true, because I remember when the Charlottesville happened, where there was the soundbite of there's good people on both sides. The Charlottesville, the white supremacist rally. That's the whole tiki torch shit. The girl got ran over by the car, et cetera, et cetera. So I remember there's good people on both sides, which he did say it, but the way it was manipulated by the media was kind of fucking crazy. And it is pretty much debunked at this point. I hate to say it, because I remember arguing with my cousin about that shit. Like, yo, you can't say that shit. That's crazy. Blah, blah, blah. And he did say it, but the context means a lot. Nay, our freedom can never be secured. All right, let's go see what else we got from these fucking momos.
It's a nonsense story. He knows that, and he didn't run because of Charlottesville. He used that as an excuse to run.
President Biden?
And debunk. It happened. All you have to do is listen to what was said at the time. And the idea that somehow that's the only reason I ran. I ran because I was worried a guy like this guy could get elected. If he thought they were good people coming out of that forest, carrying those woods, carrying those torches, then he didn't deserve to be president. Didn't deserve to be president at all. And the idea that he's talking about all this being fabricated, we saw with our own eyes. We saw what happened on January 6th. We saw the people breaking.
See the audacity to say that after just recently we seen all the videos with Biden at the Normandy thing with the Italy prime minister there, with Obama bringing him off stage, with him literally yelling at the press when he was like, and they said it was deep fakes, like shit that we see and we know wasn't edited and was real and verified. And the audacity for him to say, like, oh man, it's wild out here.
People occupying his own vice president. Look, there's a reason why 40 of his 44 top cabinet officers refused to endorse him this time. His vice president hasn't endorsed him this time. So why? Why? They know him well. They serve with him. Why are they not endorsing him?
Thank you, President Biden. We're going to be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate.
So let's see. So far, let's say this. Let's be honest. Biden's doing better than I expected, right? He's had his moments. He hasn't really said shit, though. That's the other part of it, right? He hasn't really said shit. And Trump doing a very good job not personal attacking, sticking to the issues, not being combative, which is one of the main things that has made Trump not liked. It's one of the things I don't like, even though I'm a shit talker and I'm a New Yorker and I'm that type of guy. I don't love that as the president being that guy. So Trump, composed, presidential, more presidential than ever in the last 6 months to a year, if you ask me. Biden, doing okay, not really saying shit. And let's move forward. We're a little bit more than halfway through, I think. See what we got here.
Mothers are still 3.
Okay, let's see what we got here. This is when they came back. Think they took a little break. We're behind a little because of commentary.
Georgia. Let's talk about persistent challenges you both faced in your first terms, and you'd certainly face again in the second term. President Biden, while Black unemployment dropped to a record low under your presidency, Black families still earn far less than white families. Black mothers are still 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes, and Black Americans are imprisoned at 5 times the rate of white Americans. What do you say to Black voters who are disappointed that you haven't made more progress?
And this is why Trump has been doing much better among the Black vote, because nothing changes, right? So let's see what Biden says to this and what Trump said, because this is important, right? Because even though obviously America's still white as shit, Latino as shit, a lot of Black Americans, a lot of biracial Americans, a lot of mixed Americans, but the Black vote, the Latino vote, etc., especially Latino vote, but the Black vote as well, because of how close it might be, could sway things. So let's see what they both say to this. Basically, if just to catch you up, if you just walked in, she just asked, she rattled off a bunch of statistics regarding Black Americans and how nothing is approved under Biden. And what do you say to those people that say, hey, nothing's gotten better?
They acknowledge they made a lot of progress, number one. The fact of the matter is, there are more small Black businesses that have been started than any time in history. Number two, the wages of Black unemployment is the lowest level it's been in a long, long time. Number three, we're providing housing for Black Americans and dealing with the segregation that exists among these corporations that collude to keep people out of their houses. In addition to that, we find that the impact on the
oh God,
choice
biggest glitch so far
parents have to make relative to childcare is incredibly difficult. When we did the first major piece of legislation in the past, I was able to reduce Black childcare costs. I cut them in half. We got to make sure we provide for childcare costs. We got to make sure, because when you provide those childcare protections, you increase economic growth because more people can be in the job market.
Terrible,
So
Mel.
There's more to be done. Considerably
Terrible.
more to be done. But we've done a great deal so far, and I'm not letting up, and they know it.
You have 49 seconds left. What do you say to Black voters who are disappointed with the progress so far?
I say I don't blame them for being disappointed. Inflation is still hurting them badly. For example, I provided for the idea that any Black family,
inflation's hurting everyone, you cocksucker.
First-time home buyer should get a $10,000 tax credit to be able to buy their first home so they can get started. I made sure that we're in a situation where all those Black families and those Black individuals who had to take out student loans that were ballooning, that if they were engaged in nursing, doctor, and anything having to do with volunteerism, if they paid their bills for 10 years on their student debt, all the rest was forgiven after 10 years. Millions have benefited from that. And we're going to do a whole lot more for Black families.
So another no answer. The only thing I heard was something about childcare and some type of voucher or government program for buying a house, about $10,000. But that probably is relevant to anybody in a certain financial bracket, not just minorities. But obviously, there's more minorities in a lower financial bracket. That's just the statistics. But let's see. Oh,
thank you, President Trump.
And he caused the inflation. He's blaming inflation, and he's right. It's been very bad. He caused the inflation, and it's killing Black families and Hispanic families and just about everybody. It's killing people. They can't buy groceries anymore. They can't. You look at the cost of food where it's doubled and tripled and quadrupled. They can't live. They're not living anymore. He caused this inflation. I gave him a country with essentially no inflation. It was perfect. It was so good. All he had to do is leave it alone. He destroyed it with his Green New Scam and all this money that's being thrown out the window. He caused inflation. As sure as you're sitting there, the fact is that his big kill on the Black people is the millions of people that he's allowed to come in through the border. They're taking Black jobs now. And it could be 18, it could be 19, and even 20 million.
They're taking Black jobs. That's a hell of a quote. I do like the correlation though between the border and taking black jobs. They're coming over the border. They're taking black jobs. You know what I mean? I'd like to hear what these black jobs are, by the way. But it is true though, you know. But you know, if you look at the statistics, it would be accurate. But it's a fucking hilarious way to put it.
People, they're taking black jobs and they're taking Hispanic jobs, and you haven't seen it yet, but you're going to see something that's going to be the worst in our history.
Thank you. President Biden?
There was no inflation when I became president. You know why? The economy was flat on its back. 15% unemployment. He decimated the economy.
Now, just to G-check this just a bit, he's right, but think about where the economy was when he left. There was literally a pandemic that put everything on its back for a period of time. Prior to that, you got to look at the numbers prior to the pandemic, you know, if we're going to be truthful about things.
Absolutely decimated the economy. That's why there was no inflation at the time. There were no jobs. We provided thousands of millions.
I guess them immigrants are coming in selling some good ass weed for a cheap number. You know what I mean? They're cutting out
of jobs for individuals who are in all communities, including minority communities. We made sure that they have health insurance. We have covered, if the ACA has increased, I made sure that they're $8,000 per person in a family.
Joe Zempic.
Get written off for health care. But this guy wants to eliminate that. They tried 50 times. He wants to get rid of the ACA again. And they're going to try again if they win. We find ourselves in a position where the idea that we're not doing any, we put more police on the street than any administration has. He wants to cut the cops. We're providing for equity and making sure people have a.
Trump wants to cut the cops. That's interesting. I want to see if Trump directly responds to that statement.
Shot to make it. There's a lot going on, but in inflation, he caused it by his tremendous
Truthfully, Mel, it's probably similar jobs. You know what I mean? Because, you know, just the way the economy works, and obviously there's more whites in America than anything, right? A higher percentage of whites get the the top rung and the middle class jobs, as well as Asians and Indians and, you know, some people that trend in that direction, right? And then the middle to bottom rung jobs go to more black and Hispanic people. So even though, like, obviously, yeah, we associate landscaping with, you know, Hispanics or whatever, but it's the same thing. It's like it's literally just a higher percentage of jobs that would be considered middle to bottom are inhabited, and those jobs are filled more by minorities, you know, because that's just the way it works at the end of the day. All right.
Seasons and the way he handled the pandemic.
Thank you. Another persistent challenge is the climate crisis. 2023 was the hottest year in recorded history.
Let's see.
Communities across
Let's
the
see.
country are confronting the devastating effects of
This is actually a question I'm very interested in, the climate crisis, right? Because number one, I'm big on ecological shit, right? I have kids. They're going to have kids, right? So the future, the future means something, right? But then also, we know things are overblown. And then also you got to follow the money and see who wants to cut down fracking, oil, things like that. And one of the things America does have is the largest combination of oil reserves and natural gas reserves, I believe, in the entire world. So we could tap into that, which would help the economy and help many things on that level. And Trump is very energy owned. Every president's owned by something. Trump energy is one of the things he kind of has in his pocket a little bit, or they have him in their pocket. So it's interesting. I want to see what both of them say to this.
Heat, intensifying wildfires, stronger hurricanes, and rising sea levels. Former President Trump, you've vowed to end your opponent's climate initiatives, but will you take any action as president
I'm
to
fat.
slow the climate crisis?
Well, let me just go back to what he said about the police, how close the police are to him. Almost every police group in the nation from every state is supporting Donald J. Trump. Almost every police group. And what he's done to the black population.
And let them find
the fact that for 10 years he called us
I
super
believe
predators. We can't, in the 1990s, we can't.
inside
Super predators was his name. And he called it to him.
of
They've
pride.
taken great offense at it. And now they see it happening. But when they see what I did for criminal justice reform and for the historically black colleges and universities where I funded them and got them all funded. And the opportunity zones with Tim, as you know, Tim Scott was incredible. He did a great job, great senator from South Carolina. He came to me with the idea, and it was a great idea. It's one of the most successful economic development acts ever in the country, opportunity zones. And the biggest beneficiary are blacks. And that's why we have the best numbers with them in maybe ever. They're saying ever. I read this morning where ever, the best numbers. He's lost much of the black population.
Among Republicans, I believe he's talking about. Because the best numbers ever, black people always tend to vote Democrat for whatever reason. But yeah, he's probably talking about among Democrats. I mean, among Republicans.
He's done a horrible job for black people. He's also done a horrible job for Hispanics. But wait till you see these millions of people pouring into our country, and they're going to take the jobs, and it's already started, and you haven't seen anything yet. It's a disaster.
That is not
38 seconds
inaccurate.
left. President Trump, will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
So I want absolutely immaculate clean water, and I want absolutely clean air, and we had it. We had H2O. We had the best numbers ever, and we were using all forms of energy, all forms, everything. And yet, during my 4 years, I had the best environmental numbers ever. And my top environmental people gave me that statistic just before I walked on the stage, actually.
I don't know where the hell he's been. The idea that anything he said is true. I've passed the most extensive climate change legislation in history. We find ourselves, and by the way, black colleges. I came up with $15 billion for HBCUs, historic black universities and colleges, because they don't have those. They don't have the kind of contributors that they have to build these laboratories and the like. Any black student is capable in college of doing any white student can do. They just don't have the money, but now they'll be able to get those jobs in high tech. We're in a situation where the idea that he is claiming to have done something that had the cleanest water, he hadn't done a damn thing for the environment. He pulled out of the Paris Peace Accord, Climate Accord. I am immediately joined it, because if we reach 1.5 degrees Celsius at any one point, there's no way back. The only existential threat to humanity is climate change, and he didn't do a damn thing about it.
Man, I just said a whole bunch of really good words. See, this is because I mute the mic when I burp or when I fucking sniffle because my allergies are bad, to try to help you all out. And I just robbed y'all of my fat wisdom. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's fucked up. I sung on my pussy fat song. What I say about Trump? See, I don't even remember. I said some shit. I said some pretty good shit. Focus, vote, mighty here, but you're muted, by the way, goofball. Fuck you, Coffee Talk. You son of a bitch. I was dropping wisdom. I was like, yeah, I'm saying some shit. Yeah, I'm saying some shit. Yeah, I'm saying some shit. I was fucking muted. God damn it. What were these retards talking? Oh, I got it back. RFK, if he was at this debate, would have either smashed both of these goofballs, to use your word, Coffee Talk, or he would have made Trump get more rambunctious and they would have at least sparred a little bit. But the good thing about this style of debate from Trump is that he's being more presidential. He's being more in pocket. He's being more respectful. And even though we like the shit talk and all the brass shit, right? one of the most important things for an American president, for the optics of the citizens and for the optics of the world watching, is to get on a podium whenever you touch a microphone, say the right shit, and make sure the tone of the country is where it needs to be. Sometimes it needs to be in different places, but the tone is good, right? You're a statesman. You're filling that quota in that capacity. That's why Obama was a good president, because he was a good statesman. You know how to get to this shit, say the right shit, keep the country calm, keep the world, whatever the fuck, right? So this version of Trump is better for America. Yeah, I said some shit like that. All right, let's keep going.
Must undo all that I've done.
The Paris Accord was going to cost us $1 trillion, and China nothing, and Russia nothing, and India nothing. It was a ripoff of the United States. And I ended it because I didn't want to waste that money, because they treat us horribly. We were the only ones who was costing us money. Nobody else was paying into it. And it was a disaster. But everything that he said just now, I'll give you an example. I heard him say before, insulin. I'm the one that got the insulin down for the seniors. I took care of the seniors. What he's doing is destroying all of our medical programs, because the migrants coming in, they want everybody. And look, I have the biggest heart on the stage. I guarantee you that. And I want to take care of people, but we're destroying our country. They're taking over our schools, our hospitals, and they're going to be taking over Social Security. He is destroying Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
The idea is that we, in fact, we were the only ones of consequence who were not members of the Paris Accord. How can we do anything if we're not able to? The United States can't get its under control. One of the largest polluters in the world, number one. We're making significant progress. By 2035, we will have cut pollution in half. We have made significant progress, and we're continuing to make progress. We set up a climate corps where thousands of young people will learn how to deal with climate, just like Peace Corps. And we're moving in directions that are going to significantly change the elements of cause of pollution. But the idea that he claims that he has the biggest heart up here and he's really concerned.
See, but the truth is, though, like, we got to protect the planet, but we also need some oil cheap enough, right? And for those that don't know this, and people don't pay attention enough to very important things that go on, right? We just recently, Saudi Arabia did not renew the contract to keep all petrodollars to be traded in US dollars, which has bolstered our economy for most of the last 50 years, right? And they decided not to extend that contract. So unless the deal is worked out soon, every petrodollar, when I say every petrodollar, it doesn't matter what country it comes from. If you're dealing with Saudi Arabia, if you're dealing with the real oil trade, right? It has to get transferred to a United States dollar and then move forward from there. That contract has been eliminated as of now. 50-year contract, first time it's ever been nullified in the past 50 years. One of the main things that have bolstered our economy. So it's also important that Trump is willing to dip into some of our reserves. Like I said, the biggest reserves of oil and gas in the world, I believe. You can check me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. So, Biden is still tooting the horn of these climate things. And listen, like I said, I got kids out. They're going to have kids, grandkids, right? I want the earth to be good for as long as it can. But what we should do in America, get back to being capitalist, get back to being industrialist, right? Tap into all of our domestic oil, all of our domestic gas, right? And then take a certain percentage of the earnings and then put it towards climate change technology. Whether it's removing carbon from the atmosphere, whether it's some other new shit. I don't give a fuck if Terrence Howard comes up with the bullshit, right? I'm a genius. Call me Terrence Howard, right? But Trump is on the right side of that too at this moment, right? Because one of the reasons I liked Biden more than Trump is he was an ecology dude, an environment dude to a degree more than Trump. He's owned more by that lobbying group probably, right? And that's why we know it's overblown, the climate change shit, right? But I liked it because Trump was like, fuck that shit, right? It seemed like he was saying fuck the environment, but I don't think that's necessarily the case either. So even on that, Trump he's edging the race shit because Biden's numbers hasn't improved in any measurable metric when it comes to minorities, right? So I don't know. No matter what, I mean, what are we gonna do, guys? RFK isn't viable. Biden is dead. Even if you hate Trump, listen, I'm trying to call everybody who hated Trump to a powwow right now, and I'm one of the dudes, and I'll play my video from a few years ago in a minute, right? 2016 throwback fuck Trump video. We have to think logically here, right? Biden is dead. Kamala's a fucking mess, right? RFK is not viable. I don't know what it's kind of where we at, but I still might go RFK though.
Concerned about pollution and about climate. I've not seen any indication of that. And by the way, with regard to prescription drugs, one company agreed that they would reduce the price to $35, which I was calling for, one voluntarily.
Kinda.
I made sure every company in the world, every pharmaceutical.
He was
company
tapping into it to a degree.
Thank you.
And by the way,
So every day, millions of Americans struggle just to make ends meet. For many older Americans, Social Security provides a critical lifeline.
And honestly, I don't know shit overall about stocks and gold and all that shit, but gold has already made huge leaps in the past 10, 12 years. And don't forget, we were the gold standard prior to the petrodollar, which had to be traded in American dollars. And that lasted 50 years, and we might be going to some new shit. So, yeah, we got to save the planet. Also, we got to live okay while we're on the planet, right? It's kind of two sides to that shit.
President Biden, if nothing is done to Social Security, seniors will see their benefits.
Guys,
cut
listen for a minute
in
or
just
two.
over
I will be
10
back.
years.
I must
Will
pee.
you name tonight one specific step that you're willing to
I'll be
take
back.
to keep Social Security solvent?
yes, make the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share. Right now, everybody making under $170,000 pays 6% of their income, of their paycheck, every single time they get a paycheck from the time the first one they get when they're 18 years old. The idea that they're going to, I'm proposing that everybody, they pay, the millionaires pay 1%. So no one I would not raise the cost of Social Security for anybody under $400,000. After that, I began to make the wealthy begin to pay their fair share by increasing from 1% beyond to be able to guarantee the program for life.
So you still have 82 seconds left. Are there any other measures that you think that would be able to help keep Social Security solvent, or is that one enough?
Well, no, that one enough will keep it solvent. But the biggest thing I'll do if we defeat this man, because he wants to get rid of Social Security. He thinks there's plenty to cut in Social Security. He's wanting to cut Social Security and Medicare both times. And and if you look at the program put forward by the House Republican caucus that I believe supports, is in fact want to cut it as well. The idea that we don't need to protect our seniors is ridiculous. And by the way, the American public has greater health care coverage today than ever before. And on the ACA, as I said, you're in a circumstance where 400,000 people, 40 million people would not have insurance because they have a pre-existing condition. Only thing allows them to have that insurance.
See, there's a lot of twists and turns here, right? Because optically, when Biden says, first of all, he looks like the goddamn senile Joker right now. It's a perfect screenshot. Optically, it would seem like he was automatically on the right side on this one, right? Because he says, I didn't get rid of Social Security. I didn't tax anybody. I only tax people making $400,000. But the thing with Biden is he's directly connected to big money as well. Big military, big money, big pharmaceutical. That's where he's compromised, right? So optically, yeah, if that's true and you really look into it, but then where's the other breaks? Where's the other things going on? But optically, he's saying the right thing, right? Tax the rich a little more, because I do believe in that. Because even though capitalism is what we need, it's the main system that will make a country truly prosper. Because capitalism drives innovation, it drives creativity, and all else, right? But unchecked capitalism leads to monopolies. So you do got to be careful. But let's see.
Is the fact that they, in fact, are part of the ACA. And by the way, the other thing is, we're in a situation where I talk about education for Black communities. I've raised the the amount of money for Pell Grants, another $8,000. So anybody making under $70,000 a year is going to be able to get $15,000 towards the tuition. He just doesn't know what he's talking about.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
So I've dealt with politicians all my life. I've been on this side of the equation for the last 8 years. I've never seen anybody lie like this guy. He lies. I've never seen it. He could look you in the face. So many other things too.
Trump could do that too, though.
Laptop. We mentioned Russia, Ukraine. Everything he does is a lie. It's misinformation and disinformation. The losers and suckers story that he made up is a total lie on the military. It's a disgrace. But Social Security, he's destroying it because millions of people are pouring into our country, and they're putting them onto Social Security. They're putting them onto Medicare, Medicaid. They're putting them in our hospitals. They're taking the place of our citizens. What they're doing to the VA.
That is a very important thing to keep in mind. Like, even though Trump at this point is the more viable option and the better option, like, don't ever forget that these guys are both money, generational money. Trump is billion-dollar money, right? So pick your poison, but don't make them a deity. I'm not muting for that one. I seen this on the internet. I thought this was real. There were two types of brainwashing. Orange man bad, Trump is bad, fuck Trump, to Trump will save us, right? That's what you got to be aware about, aware of. Hold on. Let's let the mic zoom come back. There we go. Is don't make him a deity and don't make him the devil. He's just a better guy at the moment, probably, especially being that both Trump and Biden fought feverishly to make sure Robert F. Kennedy wasn't on the stage, to make sure RFK 3, right, Junior? No, RFK, no. Robert Griffith 3 was the football player. Good career in college, decent career in the NFL, but short. Yeah, so.
To our veterans is unbelievable. Our veterans are living in the street, and these people are living in luxury hotels.
For the record, veterans have always been living in the street. Trump did not do enough to help that either, but there is this added stress in certain cities from the migrants.
What he's doing, and it's really coming back. I've never seen such anger in our country before.
President Biden.
The idea that veterans are not being taken care of, I told you before. And by the way, when I said suckers and losers,
the United States has never taken care of veterans. Let me stress it. I'll go fuck every president you can name. So don't let either one of them lie to you on this one. But let's let it go.
He said he acknowledged after that he fired that general. That general got fired because he's the one that acknowledged that that's what he said. He was the one standing with Trump when he said it. Number one. Number two, the idea that we're going to be in a situation where all these millions and millions, the way he talks about it, illegal aliens are coming into the country and taking away our jobs. There's a reason why we have the fastest growing economy in the world. The reason why we have the most successful economy in the world. We're doing better than any other nation in the world. And by the way, those 15 Nobel laureates he talked about being phony, those 15 Nobel laureates, economists, they all said that if Trump is reelected, we're likely to have a recession and inflation is going to increasingly go up. And by the way, worst president in history, 159 presidential scholars voted him the worst president in the history of the United States of America.
President Biden.
Yeah, because even though he's not completely compromised, he is the least compromised president ever, right? Even though Trump rubbed elbows with these scumbags and Trump did dirty shit and Trump was a politician before he was a politician, he's the least compromised ever, even though he's still compromised by industry or whatever controls him from a lobbying standpoint. So of course he's going to get voted the worst ever. He got the biggest fucking mouth. And again, if anybody here watching is new, I'm not a fucking Trump guy, but we deal with reality when we're talking, or we try our best, right? When you see me talking shit and it's not just comedy being an idiot, I try my best to let's look at shit from the least biased viewpoint, right? I try to control my bias the best I can. Everybody has their things, I guess, though.
Biden, thank you so much. Let's turn to the cost of child care, which many American families struggle to afford. President Trump, both you and
Joe.
President Biden
Right, Josephus.
have tried to address this issue. But the average cost of child care in this country has risen to more than $11,000 a year per child. For many families, the cost of child care for 2 children is more than their rent. In your second term, what would you do to make childcare more affordable?
Just to go back, the general.
I just muted myself instead of video. I could attest to that because there have been multiple times in my relationship with my girl now. We're not married, but we've been together fucking 14 years, might as well be, where childcare would have been game changer. So we could actually pick our work shifts and I wouldn't only have to do overnights or do this or do odd jobs or whatever, whatever to work around. She's been a banker for a long time, et cetera, et cetera. And fucking childcare prices are crazy. You're talking about like $200 a week per child. And then if you have 2 children, you might be able to get down to $350 a week, $450 a week probably now, right? So that's a paycheck in itself, damn near. So that's a fact. So let's see if there's anything that makes sense or could be a fixer.
Got fired because he was no good. And if he said that, that's why he made it up. But we have 19 people that said I didn't say it, and they're very highly respected, much more so than him. The other thing is he doesn't fire people. He never fired people. I've never seen him fire anybody.
Yeah, sometimes you got to fire people. This is true.
No good. I fired a lot of the top.
But Trump's extra.
The FBI drained the swamp.
Also,
they were no good. Not easy to fire people. You'd pay a price for it, but they were no good. I inherited these people. I didn't put him there. I didn't put Comey there. He was no good. I fired him. This guy hasn't fired anybody. He never fires. He should have fired every military man that was involved with that the Afghanistan horror show, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. He didn't fire. Did you fire anybody? Did you fire anybody that's on the border that's allowed us to have the worst border in the history of the world? Did anybody get fired for allowing 18 million people, many from prisons, many from mental institutions? Did you fire anybody that allowed our country to be destroyed? Joe, our country is being destroyed as you and I sit up here and waste a lot of time on this debate. This shouldn't be a debate. He is the worst president. He just said about me because I said it. But look, he's the worst president in the history of our country. He's destroyed our country. Now all of a sudden he's trying to get a little tough on the border. He came out with a nothing deal, and it reduced it a little bit.
Yeah, he came out with a deal that reduced it a decent amount, but like 3 days before the debate,
like this much. It's insignificant. He wants open borders. He wants our country to either be destroyed or he wants to pick up those people as voters. And I don't think we just can't let it happen. If he wins this election, our country doesn't have a chance, not even a chance, of coming out of this rut. We probably won't have a country left anymore. That's how bad it is. He is the worst in history by far.
And he's the worst in history by far, almost by default, right? Like when a man is this compromised intellectually, right? We both know the president's always a puppet, no matter what. But when you're this compromised intellectually and from just like a functioning standpoint, you can't even push back at all. So you're just a puppet to whatever industry or whatever interests they're trying to push through. So, I mean, it's big talk. It's catastrophic talk, which I don't like coming from people. We might not have a country, but in this case, I mean, this man, he's done decent tonight. I'm not going to lie. Way better than I thought Biden would do. But they're bringing out that goddamn Versace fucking drug. You know what I mean? They're bringing out Gucci, Versace, Stephen Hawking from the grave, motherfucking, because he's dead, right? Terrence Howard, they brought onto the committee to bake up a concoction to make him do very well. He's done not very well. Let me not say very well, but he's done, he's been maintainable throughout the whole debate. I mean, Trump's won just because he's talking good too. Like, it's not even like Trump is winning in the way Trump used to win. Right? Where he's just talking shit and cracking jokes and making up nicknames and shitting on people. He's won by saying the more accurate things and actually being more presidential. And Biden, he's been okay, but hasn't really said nothing.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden?
We're the most admired country in the world. We're the United States of America.
You're right.
There's nothing beyond our
and it has nothing to do with you or Trump.
The finest military in the history of the world. The finest in the history of the world.
And he's right. Yes, we are the most admired. We are the most diverse if you really break it down, the different, Rubik's Cubes of this country. But it got nothing to do with goddamn Trump or Biden. So don't let neither one of these motherfuckers tell you that.
No one thinks we're weak. No one wants to screw around with us. Nobody. Number one. Number two, the idea that we're talking about worst presidents. I wasn't joking. Look it up or go online. 159 or some 58, don't hold me the exact number, presidential historians, they've had meetings and they voted who's the worst president in American history.
He's
No
going
one
back to
bets
this.
the worst.
It doesn't make sense to say this because Trump, for the most part, is going to make every list of the worst in that fraternity. Because even though he was making money and cutting deals with that fraternity, he wasn't in it, right? And he talks shit about everyone in it. So stop bringing up this stupid ass study, fucking Biden. You got to, vote for the guy you would buy a used car. Well, you already know who's winning that one,
They said he was the worst in all of American history. That's a fact.
It's a fact
conjecture.
of a study of a bunch of retards.
That's what they voted. The idea that he is doing anything.
And again, I'm not a Trump guy, but we have to deal with reality, motherfuckers. We can't just ignore reality because we play for a team. That's what's destroying the country. Not Trump, not Biden, not inflation, not fucking terrorism, not fucking the gold standard, the petrol. That was destroying this country from within is everyone being blinded and following a team and thinking they can't adjust their thoughts and thinking they have to stay with their squad. That's what's destroying us, That's really the truth.
He did virtually nothing to child care. We should significantly increase the child care tax credit. We should significantly increase the availability of women and men or single parents to be able to go back to work. And we should encourage businesses to have.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, the question was about what would you do to make childcare more affordable, if you want to take your minute.
Just so you understand, we have polling, we have other things that they rate him the worst because what he's done is so bad. And they rate me.
These guys are going back. See, but it took a while though, it took a while for it to devolve to this. But now the last like 3 questions or last 3 things said, it's back and forth arguing over different polls and different people who have said Trump is the worst president, Biden is the worst president. It's arguable they're both the worst possibilities, right? Look at our options since 2016. And I'm not even saying Trump and Clinton, then Trump and Biden, now Trump and Biden. We going geriatric as fuck. We going corrupt as fuck. We going crazy as fuck, but we have to pick the less of the evils, I guess, as they say. And when you're half dead, you're the most evil. And honestly, probably the most evil if you really look at the statistics too and break it down. Trump may be the most corrupt if you look at all of his dealings throughout life, right? Little people that he fucked over and shitted on. But what's about evil shit? My man Biden might got it, But RFK Jr. should be on this debate stage, and it would be at least more fun. That's all I'm saying.
One of the best, okay? And if I'm given another 4 years,
right,
I will be the best. I think I'll be the best.
He's the worst. He's the worst. No, he's the worst.
Nobody ever
he's the worst.
Like us. He's the only one I know. He wants to raise your taxes by 4 times. He wants to raise everybody's taxes by 4 times. He wants the Trump tax.
Buddy, what does that mean? Numb. Explain your current definition of numb in this particular conversation. But I would like to say I'm comfortably numb, and I think being comfortably numb allows you to make better decisions. You have to go through things to become comfortably numb. No, you have to become numb to things. Expand your mind. Get to a place where you're comfortably numb. But I like to say I'm comfortably numb. But buddy, you tell me what you mean by numb, and then I'll respond from there, my friend.
Cuts to expire. So everybody, including the 2 of you, are going to pay 4 to 5 times. Nobody ever heard of this before. All my life, I'd grow up and I'd see politicians talking about cutting taxes. When we cut taxes, as I said, we did more business. Apple.
I'm not saying that Biden is not also corrupt. What I'm saying is Trump has rubbed elbows, been in the same circles, made billions of dollars, real estate deals, fucking over people, workers, this and that, right? So he has also been corrupt, right? But not necessarily evil because he hasn't been in this arena as much. Where Biden is also corrupt, but has been involved in more evil things, right? Civilians dying, this, that, special interest shit, lobbyist shit. Trump is guilty for 4 years of that and definitely ties into some of that too, right? But Biden is career politician. So he's probably been involved in the more true evil shit where him and Trump might be boxing for the corrupt king, is kind of what I'm saying.
At all these companies, they were bringing money back into our country. The worst president in history by far, and everybody knows it.
President Biden?
Look, the fact of the matter is that he's dead wrong about. He's increased the
Respect, bro.
He will increase.
Me too.
The taxes on middle class people. I said I'd never raise a tax on anybody making less than $400,000. I didn't. But this tariff is 10% tariffs. Everything coming in the country, you know what the economists say? That's going to cost the average American $2,500 a year more because they're going to have to pay the difference in food and all the things that we're importing. Number two.
Yeah, but see, the thing is, though, and that's true if you don't counterbalance that with domestic production. If you put tariffs and then you don't counteract the production domestically, that is true what he's saying, the $2,500 a month, because you're just putting tariffs and you're not doing anything to replace the intake, right? To replace what you have coming in. But if you counteract that with America first, thought processes, which Trump says to be about, right? You can counteract that tariff difference by being able to bring the price of this down, the price of that down, have more control of industries, etc.
He's in a situation where he talks about how he has not raised, he's somehow helped the middle class.
Right,
The middle class
Josephus.
has been devastated by you. Now you want a new tax cut of $5 trillion over the next 10 years, which is going to fundamentally bankrupt the country. You have the largest deficit of any president in American history, number one. Number two, you have not, in fact, made...
Trump was a big spender for a Republican. Like, that should be recognized. There's definitely a top economist. Forgot this one dude. He's huge in that field. Pete or something, maybe, but I'm not sure. He said Trump is going to burst the bubble with spending. Trump was a big spender for a conservative. That is actually accurate. Bad guys do good things. Good guys do bad things. Right. That's the point. Right. And that's kind of how I live for the most part, bro. Like, I'm a spaz. If you're a dickhead, I'm automatically like ready to, hey, what's up? You know what I mean? Or if I see somebody getting disrespected, I'm one of the first people to step up if it comes down to it. But right. Just what's up? Could we just be good? Could we be good and address dickheads instead of being dickheads first? That would be great. Or instead of being evil, which is even worse than being a dickhead. But yeah.
Any contact, any progress with China. We are the lowest trade deficit with China since 2010.
Thank you, President Biden.
Yeah, because you're bending the knee to China.
Epidemic impacting millions of Americans that both of you have made a top priority.
That's
in your
racist.
first term.
That's racist.
The opioid crisis.
That's racist.
For both of you, the number of overdose deaths in this country has gone up under your term.
Overdose, okay.
Under your term, it has
Talking
gone
drugs,
former President Trump,
pharmaceuticals.
despite the efforts that both of you have made,
See what we got.
more than 100,000 Americans are dying from overdoses every year, primarily from fentanyl and other opioids. What will you do to help Americans right now in the throes of addiction who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
To finish up, we now have the largest deficit in the history of our country under this guy. We have the largest deficit with China. He gets paid by China. He's a Manchurian candidate. He gets money from China. So I think he's afraid to deal with them or something.
That's a great bar, though. That's a great bar. As an MC, that's a great bar. He's a Manchurian candidate, this motherfucker.
But do you notice he never took out my tariffs because we bring in so much money with the tariffs that I imposed on China. He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous. And we saved our steel industries, and there was more to come, but he hasn't done that. But he hasn't cut the tariffs because he can't, because it's too much money. But he's got the largest deficit in the history of our country, and he's got the worst situation with China. China's going to own us if you keep allowing them to do what they're doing to us as a country. They are killing us as a country, Joe, and you can't let that happen. You're destroying our country.
So, President Trump,
I had a run of being prescribed Vicodins and perks and Dilaudids at one point, but I also had really bad injuries from over the years, and I was also very controlled to the point where in my drawer I still got 200 sitting there because I wasn't taking what I was prescribed. But I seen a lot of people being from Staten Island. You know, that was one of the epicenters for the opioid epidemic. You know, it was like there, Florida, and like, you know, up in like Massachusetts and like, you know, New England area. Yeah, I don't have an arcane here, thank God, because I don't need one. Dust has had situations, unfortunately, with his son in recent years, who's doing much better now. That lean that direction. Yeah, I mean, that's true, but to be fair, there's always an opiate, right? Like there's always some opiate that's ravaging America, you know, but also on the flip side, the open border situation does fuel that a little more. But anybody who's paying attention knows that fentanyl's getting in either way, you know. So, but you're right though. The only problem is it's the worst opioid ever, maybe, right? So it's like you got to give them more hits for that. But at the end of the day, opioids been ravaging regardless. But the Obama Biden administration, forget the last 4 years, that 8-year administration saw the worst epidemic we've ever seen, as far as like now it's like more with the fentanyl to a degree, but the way it was spinning at that time and how it got started with the you know, the farms where people, where you could fill the same script at, you know, not fill the same script, go to different doctors, fill a script at multiple different pharmacies. That's when I lost. I mean, I'm talking, man, most of them weren't only on pills, but pills played a huge part because of that era. I'm talking between 7 and 12 people I lost that opioids played a major role in, you know, 100%. So, and that was during the 8-year run, right? Not his little 4 years here, which now it's the fentanyl and da-da-da-da-da. My oldest brother's a heroin addict. It was sad growing up as a kid. Yeah. And you know, basically opioids are just like microdosing fucking heroin to a degree. And fentanyl is fucking whole nother level, the new shit. They're always going to have some new shit to kill us with. I know I did it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 100%. I mean, by default, it's Trump, right? Because he's not being a dickhead. So you can't take points away because you're just looking at him like, look at his jerk off, right? Because he gets, look at his jerk off points at times, right? Because it's like unnecessary jerk off shit. You know, he's not being a jerk off, being presidential, talking real stats, real numbers. Biden's been doing decent. You know, they definitely hype, you know, pumped him up, gave him the super soaker of drugs. They basically put a whole bunch of drugs into a tube on a super soaker, made him bend over, stuffed the super soaker tip in his ass, you know, the orange shit, so it don't look like a real gun. Remember they made that adjustment because kids were getting killed in the 90s, and it's and hit him up, and he's been doing good. Biden's been doing okay. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, Trump has been oddly calm. I'm telling you, he's been presidential. He learned, right? He pulled a certain amount of people in with the brass shit while also making certain people hate him because of the brass shit. And now he's like, okay, now I see. And he's definitely winning, not only by default, by his own actions mixed with default. Right now, they're talking about opioids.
67 seconds left. The
And
question
drug
was, what are you
overdoses.
going to do to help Americans in the throes of addiction right now who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
Jake, we were doing very well at addiction until the COVID came along. We had the 2.5, almost 3 years of like nobody's ever had before, any country in every way. And then we had to get tough. And it was the drugs pouring across the border were.
And that is fairly accurate. There was a major dip from the main opioid spike going down until around 2020. And then it popped back up for obvious reasons. So that is accurate, but it was also just when it was going down anyway. It's when the lawsuits came, when the companies got fined, you know. So either way, it was gonna dip, but either way, the pandemic would bring it up also.
It started to increase. We got great equipment. We bought the certain dog that's the most incredible thing that you've ever seen, the way they can spot it.
Bought the certain dog.
We were getting very low numbers, very, very low numbers. Then he came along. The numbers, have you seen the numbers now? It's not only the 18 million people that I believe is even low, because the gotaways, they don't even talk about gotaways, but the numbers of the amount of drugs and human trafficking in women coming across our border, the worst thing I've
It is true.
At numbers that nobody's ever seen under him, because the border's so bad. But the number of drugs coming across our border now is the largest we've ever had by far.
President Trump, thank you. President Biden?
Fentanyl and the byproducts of fentanyl went down for a while. And I wanted to make sure we use the machine.
And also, even though there's only a few people here, you could pass on the info if you don't know it. China is one of the main exporters to the cartels and to the people making fentanyl that ends up being the fentanyl that enters the United States. For those that don't know that. Come on.
Machinery that can detect fentanyl. These big machines that roll over everything that comes across the border. And it costs a lot of money. That was part of this deal we put together. It's a bipartisan deal. More fentanyl machines, more be able to detect drugs, more numbers of agents, more numbers.
You're doing great, Joe.
All the people at the border. And when we had that deal done, he called his Republican colleagues and said, "Don't do it. It's going to hurt me politically." No, he never argued it's not a good bill. It's a really good bill. We need those machines. We need those machines. And we're coming down very hard in every country in Asia in terms of precursors for fentanyl. And Mexico is working with us to make sure they don't have the technology to be able to put it together. That's what we have to do. We
That's a
need
fact.
those machines.
Thank you, President Biden.
It's a fact,
Trump,
Phantom.
and the question is about Americans in the throes of addiction right now, struggling to get the treatment they need.
Well, this does pertain to it. He ended remain in Mexico. He ended catch and release. I made it catch and release in Mexico, not catch and release here. We had so many things that we had done, hard negotiations with Mexico, and I got it all for nothing. It's just like when you have a hostage. We always pay $6 billion for a hostage. Every time we say there's a hostage. Now we have a hostage, a Wall Street Journal reporter. I think a good guy. And he's over there because Putin is laughing at this guy, probably asking for billions of dollars for the reporter. I will have him out very quickly as soon as I take office. Before I take office, I said by literally as soon as I win the election, I will have that reporter out. He should have had him out a long time ago. But Putin's probably asking for billions and billions of dollars because this guy pays it every time. We had 2 cases. We paid $6 billion for 5 people. I got 58 people out, and I paid essentially nothing.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
Let's turn to concerns that voters have about each of you. President
All right, guys. Here's what's going to happen here. I have to go pee again. So I'm going to play you this quick video. This is friend of the show, Wally. He did a little video, and then somebody else made a song from him. I think it has something to do with AOC. I'll be back.
So, Wally Wurgle, what do you think about AOC?
That's the bartender, right? Yeah, she's a socialist sea urchin. But I would let her give me an MPBJ. But I would tell her, listen, be careful with those big teeth. Sometimes they can just scrape your whole shaft. Yeah, granted, my shaft is only about this big. It's true. But I'll tell you what, you scrape those teeth along it, it'll still hurt. Big teeth. Watch for the scrapes on the shaft. He hates America.
Give him that micro penis BJ. AOC, the micro penis BJ. For Wally, scrape the shaft. No, don't scrape the shaft. Whoa, scrape the shaft. Baby, hurts so good. Treat that 2.5 inches like you should. Communism, more like communism. Am I right? Is this thing on? Give me a micro penis BJ and wear a dirty thong. Scrape the shaft. No, don't scrape the shaft. Whoa, scrape the shaft. Baby, it hurts so good. Treat that 2.5 inches like you should. Communism, am I right? Is this thing on? Give me a micro penis BJ and wear a dirty thong. Scrape the shaft. No, don't scrape the shaft. Whoa, scrape the shaft. Baby, it hurts so good. Treat that 2.
Like you should. Come on, guys. Do right, right? Some guys ain't packing, right? They're not even packing average. And if you're going to come to a guy and he's barely even packing average, at least don't scrape that shaft. Let's get back to it. If you want to see a nice AOC song, go back a little bit. Viewer number 5. I would send you the warning, fandom. If I was single or as a scumbag, I would send you that song first. Because I've seen those chompers. I would send you a song first. I'd be like, all right, check this song out. And if you liked it, I'd be like, all right, she knows what to do with those teeth. All right. Hold on. Let's keep going.
Biden, you would be 86 at the end of your second
Oh, we
term.
talking age.
How do you address concerns about your capability to handle the toughest job in the world well into your 80s?
Well, first,
So we talking age now, ladies and gentlemen. This is big. This age shit is big because that right. What's the major minus on Biden? The age, right? You could do it. You could say inflation, the border. Yeah, there's other things, right? But the age.
first of all, I spent half my career being criticized being the youngest person in politics. I was the second youngest person ever elected to the United
Shut up.
States Senate, and now
Yes.
I'm the oldest. This guy's 3 years younger and a lot less competent. I think that just look at the record. Look at what I've done. Look how I've turned around the horrible situation.
That was a good bar though. That was a decent bar. 3 years younger, way less competent. Give him a little ball work on that.
He left me. As I said, 15 million new jobs, 800,000 manufacturing jobs, more investment in America, over billions of dollars in private investment in enterprises that we are growing. By the way, we brought off a lot of people. The whole idea of computer chips. We used to have 40% of the market. We invented those chips, and we lost it because he was sending people to find the cheapest jobs overseas and then bring home a product. So I went to South Korea. I convinced Samsung to invest billions of dollars here in the United States. And guess what? Those fabs, they call them, that to build these chips, those fabs pay over $100,000. You don't need a college degree for them. And there's billions, about $40 billion already being invested.
The chip game is real though, right? The semiconductor chips and for all the AI and all the computation, etc. Whoever really nails that down, that's a big win economically for sure.
And being built right now in the United States, creating significant jobs for Americans from all over the world.
President Biden, you have 40 seconds left. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I would. The idea is
I just want to say that's one of my favorite things from this debate. And this is why it's even more of a W for Trump, right? And I come in unbiased, again, not a Trump voter, not yet, maybe in November. But numerous times, I'm talking about 10 times, probably minimum, this bitch said, President Biden, you have 82 seconds left. Would you like to expand or, give more details on your response? President Biden, you have 45 seconds left. Would you like to use that time? President Biden, you have 4 minutes left, motherfucker. Jesus Christ. Hilarious.
that somehow we are this failing country. I never heard a president talk like this before. We're the envy of the world. Name me a single major country president who wouldn't trade places with the United States of America.
Yeah.
All our problems and all our opportunities. We're the most progressive.
And he's right, but that's a basic thought process, right? We're the United States. Of course, who the fuck wouldn't want to be the United States, right? But again, Trump nor Biden had anything to do with that becoming a thing.
Country in the world and getting things done. We're the strongest country in the world.
Okay.
We're a country in the world who keeps our word, and everybody trusts us, all of our allies. And
Now you better hold the fuck on. All right. He fixed it a little bit with all of our allies, but everybody trusts us. Sorry, buddy. Not so much. And then even our allies are like, I see what you did to these motherfuckers. You know?
and those who he coddles up to, from Kim Jong-un, he sends love letters to, and Putin, etc. They don't want to screw around with us.
Thank you. Former President Trump, to follow up, you would be 82 at the end of your second term.
82.
What do you
Both
say to
old
those who have
motherfuckers.
concerns about your capabilities to serve?
Well, I took 2 tests, cognitive tests. I aced them. both of them, as you know. We made
I
it
aced
public.
them.
He took
Both
none.
of
I'd
them.
like to see him take
No
one,
one's ever
just
seen
one, a real
results
easy
like
one.
this.
Like go through the first 5 questions. He couldn't do it. But I took 2
I do agree.
cognitive tests. I took physical exams every year. And, you know, we knock on wood wherever we may have wood, that I'm in very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even senior, 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way. And I do it.
Yeah. I hear what he's saying with the golf wins, but also how many motherfuckers golf with Trump and golf 100%? You know, it's like racing your son. You know what I mean? You don't want to just blow your son. You know what I mean? Just woo, motherfucker! Ah! You know what I mean? So yeah, I hear you, Trump. You're more cognitively, you know, in place than Biden for sure. But I wouldn't quote your fucking, because I'm assuming club championships mean golf shit, right? How many dudes are golfing with Trump really trying to beat him? Now some might, but even if it's like 50%, and you know, half of them at least are like, all right, I'm trying to get this deal with him on this course. I'm trying to close. You know, you don't want to fucking fuck around and be hitting birdies all day and Trump's in the sand trap, you know?
But he doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. I think I'm in very good shape. I feel that I'm as in good a shape as I was 25, 30 years ago. Actually, I'm probably a little bit lighter, but I'm in as good a shape as I was years ago. I feel very good. I feel the same. But I was willing to take a cognitive test. And you know what? If I didn't do well, I aced him. Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who's a great guy when he was White House doctor. And then I took another one, a similar one. And one of them said they'd never seen anybody ace him.
Thank you. President Biden?
You can see he is 6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 235 pounds. Well, you said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, that's it. Anyway.
Fuck does that mean,
Just take
Biden?
a look at what he says he is, and take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. I got my hand.
Hold on. That might be the quote of the night. I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. That's my favorite shit of the night. I do not smoke cigarettes. First of all, Phantom, how dare you? Notoriously anti-cigarette, except back in the day when I quit weed to get a job, and I smoked cigarettes occasionally at the end of the night while drinking, and it made me feel like I smoked a blunt. But that is marijuana, ma'am.
Handicap, which when I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. I got my hand. Take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. And by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
That's the biggest lie. He's a 6 handicap of all.
I was at 8 handicap. 8. But I had, you know how many?
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Okay, let's not act.
President
President Trump, we're going to
21
turn.
Let's not act like
These rich motherfuckers are now arguing fucking their golf handicap. Like, if this isn't the most we're not in touch with the regular people shit I ever seen in my fucking life. You're 6 handicap. That's the biggest lie I've ever seen, Trump says. What about the lies that lead to fucking death and shit? Nope. None of that. The golf shit.
children.
To a specific concern that voters have about you. Will you pledge tonight that once all legal challenges have been exhausted, that you will accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins?
It's big.
You will say right now that political violence in any form is unacceptable.
Well, I shouldn't have to say that, but of course I believe that. It's totally unacceptable. And if you would see my statements that I made on Twitter at the time, and also my statement that I made in the Rose Garden, you would say it's one of the strongest statements you've ever seen. In addition to the speech I made in front of, I believe, the largest crowd I've ever spoken to. And I will tell you, nobody ever talks about that. They talk about a relatively small number of people that went to the Capitol and in many cases were ushered in by the police. And as Nancy Pelosi said, it was her responsibility, not mine. She said that loud and clear. But the answer is...
that video is out there. Just look up like Nancy Pelosi talks about her failures on January 6th. Nancy Pelosi acknowledges, blah, 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 something like that.
If the election is fair, free, and I want that more than anybody. And I'll tell you something. I wish he was a great president because I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be at one of my many places enjoying myself. I wouldn't be under indictment because I wouldn't have been his political opponent because he indicted me because I was his opponent. I wish he was a great president. I would rather have that. I wouldn't be here. I don't mind being here. The only reason I'm here is he's so bad as a president that I'm going to make America great again. We're going to make America great again. We're a failing nation right now. We're a seriously failing nation. And we're a failing nation because of him. His policies are so bad.
He had his moment, though, right? He just got into branding. Make America great again. We're going to make America great again. You need to put that shit in a track immediately.
His military policies are insane. They're insane. These are wars that will never end with him. He will drive us into World
That's
War
true.
III, and we're close
Well,
to World War III.
Pardon me. I said that's true as he said World War III. He will keep the wars going. I'm not saying let's go to war like that. Biden necessarily will bring us there. And then a lot of people do believe we're closer to World War III. I wouldn't say than we've ever been, but that we've been in a long time.
Than anybody can imagine. We are very, very close to World War III, and he's driving us there. And Kim Jong-un and President Xi of China, Kim Jong-un of North Korea, all of these, Putin, they don't respect him. They don't fear him. They have nothing going with this gentleman, and he's going to drive us into World War III.
It's possible.
You want a world
Things
war
are real
III.
right now.
Let him follow and win, and let Putin say, do what you want, NATO. Just do what you want. There's a thing called Article 5. An attack on one is attack on all. Required response.
What are you talking about, man?
The idea. I can't think of a single major leader in the world who wouldn't trade places with the job I've done and what they've done. Because we're a powerful nation. We have wonderful people. It's because of the people, not me. It's because of the American people. They're capable of anything, and they step up when they're needed. And right now, we're needed. We're needed to protect the world because our own safety is at stake. And
we're needed to protect the world from the war between Russia and Ukraine that was started by NATO and with the United States backing, getting closer and closer to Russia. Right? We're needed to prevent something from getting worse, but arguably doing things to make it worse. But it's also something we started. So let's just try to do the math. Let's just try to do the math on this bullshit, you know?
again, you want to have a war, just let Putin go ahead and take Kyiv, make sure they move on, see what happens in Poland, Hungary, and other places along that border. Then you have a war.
President Trump,
Shut
as
up.
I come
That
back
don't
to
work,
you for
man.
a follow-up, the question was, will you accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins?
Just to finish what he said, if I might, Russia, they took a lot of land from Bush. They took a lot of land from Obama and Biden. They took no land, nothing from Trump, nothing. He knew not to do it. He's not going to play games with me. He knew that. I got along with him very well, but he knew not to play games. He took nothing from me. But now he's going to take the whole thing from this man right here. That's a war that should have never started. It would have never started ever with me. And he's going to take Ukraine. And, you know, you asked me a question before, would you do this? He's got us in such a bad position right now with Ukraine and Russia, because Ukraine's not winning that war. He said, I will never settle until such time. They're running out of people. They're running out of soldiers. They've lost so many people. It's so sad. They've lost so many people, and they've lost those gorgeous cities with the golden domes that are 1,000 years old.
That's always Russia's tactic in war. Like anyone who's like a Russian fucking expert and shit, that's what Russia does. They throw bodies. They just throw bodies at shit. And they also have the technology and, you know, things along those lines. Maybe not like us, but they do have it. But more than anything, they throw bodies, especially in the beginning. They just throw bodies, bro. Bodies.
All because of him and stupid decisions.
And then therefore the other side is also throwing bodies, but Russia doesn't care about what they're losing at the time because they're looking at the big picture, right? So they throw bodies. The other side throws bodies too. But when it's all said and done, Russia has more bodies to throw and better technology as they keep changing up their strategy.
Russia would have never attacked if I were
President
president.
Trump, the question was, will you accept the results of the election, regardless
I agree.
of who wins? Yes or no, please.
if it's a fair and legal and good election, absolutely. I would have much rather accepted these, but the fraud and everything else was ridiculous. And if you want, we'll have a news conference on it in a week, or we'll have another one of these in a week. But I will absolutely, there's nothing I'd rather do. It would be much easier for me to do that than I'm running again. I wasn't really going to run until I saw the horrible job he did. He's destroying our country. I would be very happy to be someplace else, in a nice location someplace. And again, no indictments, no political opponent stuff, because it's the only way he thinks he can win. But
And the truth is, it's not like they started these indictments once Trump lost, right? Once Trump was out. They started these indictments like when Trump was hinting towards, yeah, I'm running again. So, I mean, it's really hard to deny that that's why they initiated these indictments, especially on such old crimes and cases.
unfortunately, it's driven up my numbers and driven them up to a very high level because the people understand it.
Let's see what your numbers are when this election is over. Let's see. You're a whiner. When you lost the first time,
You're a whiner.
You continued. You appealed and appealed to courts all across the country. Not one single court in America said any of your claims had any merit, state or local, none. But you continue to provoke this lie about.
This is where I agree. I believe overall, Biden was the legitimate winner. Because I know a lot of people, this is anecdotal to start with. I know a lot of people that changed from Trump to Biden or Trump to Libertarian in the last election. That's anecdotal. But then the other side was it was the most voted for election ever because there was the option of easy voting, in-home voting, right? Like not in-home, but vote, drop your shit off, bang, because of the pandemic. What now was that the way they utilized the tragedy and exaggerated the tragedy of the pandemic in order to make that happen? Now, all that, yes, that's where manipulation comes in. But I do believe when the votes are all said and done, I do believe Biden won. I really do. But I do believe there was some more election fraud than ever because it was a lot of online shit, but there's always election fraud. And, I believe Biden won overall, but it was manipulated for sure. You know what I mean? There was a concerted effort to make it not work out by the time you went to the ballots, right? Not necessarily what happened after, though. But yeah, that's me.
There's all this misrepresentation, all this stealing. There is no evidence of that at all. And I tell you what, I doubt whether you'll accept it because you're such a whiner. The idea, if you lose again, you accepting anything, you can't stand the loss. Something snapped in you when you lost the last time.
We'll be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate live from Georgia.
Now let's see what else we got. We're getting towards the end here. And by the way, I'm either going to stay live or go live again, maybe, because I'm drinking and I very rarely drink. And I would like to, stay live, hang out, build up some watch hours, hang out with my people here. So we're getting towards the end. I might either stay live, open up the panel a bit, or start a different live, or do neither. Who the fuck knows? But let's see where we are. Let's see. How far we got to go forward to catch back up?
Fact is that I said.
Okay. All right. So after this, they juicing Joe up again. And this is probably the last run. Yo, thank you to anyone who's been here the whole time. Thank you to anyone who's popped in and out, even if for a minute or two. It's appreciated.
We've made significant progress.
And by the way, get in that comment section, not in the comment section, in the description. There's all the other platforms I'm on, all the other places to follow me. If you want to support the show, what I do, pre-recorded stuff we put out, live stuff I do. In any way, there's multiple options. And if you don't, your time here is appreciated just as much. But the description is there.
Although it's left by
it's there in the description. Pardon me.
President Trump and
Drinking.
his last term. We find ourselves in a situation where, number one, we have to make sure that we have a fair tax system.
You're right. I'm going to go back, though. You're right. You're right, Mel. In this particular debate and interaction, Trump not only didn't initiate, which he doesn't most of the time, he's usually a counterpuncher, but he does at times initiate. But not only did he not initiate, he chose not to counterpunch. You see his face. If you really watch the debate, there's a couple times where he was like, like you see him holding it in. But that's fair. You're right. You're 100% right.
By President Trump in his last term. We find ourselves in this. We've made significant progress from the debacle that was left by President Trump in his last term. We find ourselves in a situation where, number one, we have to make sure that we have a fair tax system. I ask anyone out there in the audience or anyone out watching this debate, do you think the tax system is fair? The fact is that I said nobody even making under $400,000 had a single penny increase in their taxes and will not. And if I'm reelected, that'll be the case again. But this guy has increased your taxes because of the deficit. Number one, he's increased inflation because of the debacle he left after the way he handled the pandemic. And he finds himself in a position where he now wants to tax you more by putting a 10% tariff on everything that comes into the United States.
That's a really good point out, though, is that Trump definitely did mishandle the fuck out of the pandemic. Because you could be a Trump guy as much as you want, which I wasn't initially. Might be this time. We'll see. But he mishandled the pandemic on every level. He let big companies and big business get all the business, right? All the toilet paper business, right? All the this, that. If he was really a small business guy and America First guy, he would have said, fuck Walmart, fuck this, fuck that. All the small businesses, we're going to make sure a certain amount of that business goes to you. Obviously, let the big store brands get their, get their shit as usual as well. But instead, he went with big ticket companies, big ticket, lanes, and let small businesses die. And that is true. Like there are things Trump very much mishandled about the pandemic, up to and including the fact that out of his mouth, he said, we might get the military to help with getting vaccines into the people. Project Warp Speed, this, that. Don't forget, he was touting that shit. He pivoted, just like the Democrats pivoted when they said, we're not going to take a Trump vaccine. Then once he was out, they're like, take the vaccine, right? But, all cards on the table.
It's America. What I did, for example, he wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare for us to be able to negotiate drug prices with the big pharma companies.
Melting a little.
Well, guess what? We got it down to $35 for insulin instead of $400. No more than $2,000.
And that's totally fair too. That's totally fair. You know what I mean? 100% fair. I'm just saying his authoritarian side showed a little bit, and his let's not put small businesses first side showed a little bit. Let's not put America first. You know what I mean? That's all I'm saying. But 100% what you're saying. I'm just saying we have to acknowledge that he didn't handle many things the best way either. If you're gonna, try to see all sides of it. That's all. But yes, 100%. I'm with you.
For every senior, no matter how much prescription they need, you know what that did? That reduced the federal debt by $160 billion over 10 years because the government doesn't have to pay the exorbitant prices. I'm going to make that available to every senior all along, it's happening now, and everybody in America. He wants to get rid of that. I'm going to make sure that we have child care. We're going to significantly increase the credit people have for child care. We're going to make sure we do something about what we're doing on lead pipes and all the things that are causing health problems for people across the country. We're going to continue to fight.
I'm going to let both of them talk, then react at the end.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, you now have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Like so many politicians, this man is just a complainer. He said, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to get rid of this tax, that tax. But he doesn't do anything. All he does is make our country unsafe by allowing millions and millions of people to pour in. Our military doesn't respect him. We look like fools in Afghanistan. We didn't stop Israel. It was such a horrible thing that would have never happened. It should have never happened. Iran was broke. Anybody that did business with Iran, including China, they couldn't do business with the United States. They all passed. Iran was broke. They had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah, for terror, no money whatsoever. Again, Ukraine should have never happened. He talks about all this stuff, but he didn't do it. For 3.5 years, we're living in hell. we have the Palestinians and we have everybody else rioting all over the place. You talk about Charlottesville. This is 100 times Charlottesville, 1,000 times. The whole country is exploding because of you, because they don't respect you, and they have to respect their president, and they don't respect you throughout the world. What we did was incredible. We rebuilt the military. We got the largest tax cut in history, the largest regulation cut in history. The reason he's got jobs is because I cut the regulations that gave jobs, but he's putting a lot of those regulations back on. All of the things that we've done, nobody's never seen anything like, even from a medical standpoint, right to try, where we can try space age materials instead of going to Asia or going to Europe and trying to get when you're terminally ill. Now you can go and you can get something. You sign a document. They've been trying to get it for 42 years. But you know what we did for the military was incredible. Choice for our soldiers, where our soldiers, instead of waiting for 3 months to see a doctor, can go out and get themselves fixed up and readied up and take care of themselves, and they're living. And that's why I had the highest approval rating in the history of the VA. So all of these things, we're in a failing nation, but it's not going to be failing anymore. We're going to make it great again.
Thank you, former President Trump. Stay with us because we have full analysis of this.
It's a good that's a good cherry on top, right? Now, let's give a final breakdown, right? First of all, anybody who is in here, these six, if we're connected on Discord or anything like that, hit me because I might go back live in a little minute, but I want to keep this live separate, I think. But overall, oh wait, what'd I do? Oh, the burp, of course. I figured, listen, I hid about 9 burps throughout the debate, muted, even lost a good speech because of my burps. So I figured, I got to finish it off with a hitter, But overall, and not for the obvious reasons, right? It's not like, obviously Trump won the debate, right? Because that's what we would expect, right? But I think we were expecting that because we figured Trump would be boisterous. Trump would be boombastic. Biden would be flabbergasted and malfunctioning all night, right? But that's not the reason. Like Trump did, and he just landed a fucking he just landed a KO. Oh yeah, I'm a burp king. I'm a burp king. but he did land the KO. The finishing words, obviously, also bang, highest rating in the history of the VA. That should make all Americans proud and happy, but of course will tickle the ears of conservatives because they're even more aligned with, the military and that side of things, whatever the hell you want to say. But Trump won tonight for the opposite reasons, which is interesting. He won because he kept calm. He won because he didn't counterpunch every time Biden talked shit. And Biden talked shit first 3-4 times. And not only did Trump not talk shit first, I don't think once, but didn't talk shit back a single time. He avoided it. He kept it policy driven. He kept it focused on things that they did, things that they want to do. He spoke calmly. I don't think there was a single nickname or name during the whole fucking thing. So yeah, Trump won, right? And we all expected it, but not for the reasons that we expected it. So, I think for most people, it's either you're brainwashed on the Biden side. And mind you, I'm not a Trump guy, was never a Trump guy, could never be a Trump guy. Might vote for him, depending. If Robert F. Kennedy's on the ballot, probably going to vote for his fucking weird ass, his drive-through in fucking, I might, right? But there's no way possible that you could even think for 1 second saying Biden won. But what you can say, see, what's going to happen is being that Biden wasn't stuttering and malfunctioning and falling and tripping and wandering all night, people are going to say Biden did great. And he did do well, way better than I thought. But Trump did even better than we thought, as far as like he is taking the statesman role a little more this time around. He's taking the presidential role a little more this time around. And I think it's going to pay dividends. I really do. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bounce, right? I might put up another live in a minute if I could get at least one other person to come talk shit with me, because I just held court for 228 by myself. Obviously, a little comedy mixed in, mostly real talk. And that's also what I'm trying to do here. I'm going to have more lives where I talk about issues and different things that I know about or I'm interested in. Some comedy laced in it. Uncle Dust is still here. We all still here. Go in the fucking description, right? Support everything I do on all platforms. I love everyone. Appreciate anybody who's here. What I'm going to do on the way out, though, is I'm going to play my Fuck Trump music video from 2016. I wrote and had this shit ready to come out before YG, before anybody else. And my main point of doing this too is to also show you can evolve your opinion. You can either have situations change or your viewpoint on a person change. And we need to be addicted to the best choice, the best decision, and not teams. And then we'll be better off. Love, love.
Initially stating he was not a racist, and that his words were his own, in USA Today on May 20th, 1991, the Trump states, quote, "I have black guys counting my money. I hate it. The only guys that want counting my money are short guys with yarmulkes all day."
I don't think Ivanka would do that inside the magazine, although she does have a very nice figure. I've said that if Ivanka weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her.
When I say fuck, you say Trump. Fuck Trump. Fuck Trump. When I say fuck, you say Trump. Fuck Trump. Fuck Trump. When I say I had, you say enough. I had enough. I had enough. When I say fuck, you say Trump. Fuck Trump. Fuck Trump. A sexist, racist, his politics baseless. Small hands, Botox, toupee, and facelifts. Rather vote Tupac, this outrageous. Antichrist painted on the walls of the ancients. Book of Revelations, I'm facing a nation. Begging, pleading, please, we gotta stop all the hating. Human PCs, we typing, backspacing. Emojis, Instagram, and smiley faces. This clown wanna build a new world of Berlin. When most Mexicans are Native American. Not saying let them all in. Plenty here living with sin. With focus on color of skin, how could we ever win? Knowledge is power, my mic is power. Brothers, sisters, we in the final hour. Time is money, spend less on sour. It's time we take back our power. Knowledge is power, my mic is power. Sisters, brothers, we in the final hour. Time is money, spend less on sour. It's time we take back our power. When I say fuck, you say Trump. Fuck Trump. Fuck Trump. When I say fuck, you say Trump. Fuck Trump. Fuck Trump.
Say that we don't get it automatically. I think you'd have riots.
I must have misheard. He said there will be riots. We should be consistent. After all, if we bash radicals for inciting unrest, if their demands aren't met, we should probably do that here.
So if you see somebody getting ready to throw a tomato, knock the crap out of them, would you? Seriously. I will pay for the legal fees, I promise.
Inciting riots, Mr. Hitler, Mr. Trump, same ish to me. In the den with the lions, foul history soon to be repeated. All progress deleted, sure as his hairlines receded. Pledge allegiance to the oppressor, ways of thinking older than Regis or the Bible and grandma dresser. No survival, no pleasure. Freedom laid on a stretcher. There's no scale that can measure the weight of the hate. You can see it in his face. Triple Six, 3 6s, upside down crucifixes. Can I get a witness? Hell yeah. Rather vote for the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, McCain or Romney, or a Walking Dead zombie. Honestly, probably rather give the empire to Taraji. Cut the snake head wearing Armani and Versace. Time to put the lies to bed and move properly. When I say fuck, you say Trump. Fuck Trump. Fuck Trump. When I say fuck, you say Trump. Fuck Trump. Fuck Trump. When I say I had, you say enough. I had enough. I had enough. Time we take back our power.